question then becomes, but Grant, how do we know if it's a bull market or just a bear market rally? And why didn't you tell me that I could get all the way up to $100 just for signing up with FTX US down below in the description with the code GRAHAM? And that's a great question that I asked myself. So while we're on the topic of crypto, if you're looking for a place to buy, sell, track, or trade both crypto and NFTs all in one place with fees that are up to 85% lower than the top competitors, then FTX US is there to help. They're trusted by millions of users, and what I like the most about them is that they allow you to set up an automatic recurring buy so that you can dollar cost average into the markets on a regular basis. So if you're interested, the link is down below in the description with the code GRAHAM, and you can get all the way up to $100 for signing up depending on how much you trade. Enjoy, and now let's get back to the video. So of course, the obvious question then becomes, but Grant, how do we know if it's a bull market?
All right. So take a look at this interview. It's almost 2 hours. Gonna play it. I think I've already put it on this fast speed now. Let's go here, and we're gonna skim through it and just hear what they have to say. So you know about Graham Stephan. He's an obvious fraud. He'll do anything. He doesn't care about folks. These YouTubers don't give a shit about you. You guys got to communicate that they want to fuck all of you. They don't care. They want the money. They're working as business partners with YouTube and scam people who are putting ads. They're all in business together to fuck you. You got to understand that. All these people, they monetize their channel. They've been bought off, and you are the victim. If you're not paying for their content, you're getting fucked. Someone else is paying, and they got to make sure they get a good return on their investment. You understand? These are the advertisers. So the advertisers are going to make sure and align their content, their ads, with the content providers to make sure that you get screwed. You got it? That's how it works. That's the advertisement-based business model. I've been exposing that business model for more than 15 years. Nobody in the world can come close to me in the work that I've done exposing that. The ad-based model is a scam. Okay, that's the entire media structure. All right? So let's listen to this interview now with Cathie Wood, the failed fund manager. Now, let me just go ahead before we begin. Let me kind of remind you, for those of you who don't know Cathie Wood, I didn't even know who the hell she was until a subscriber on one of my webinars, research webinars. It's an open-ended where we talk about securities analysis and what have you. But someone was mentioning about Cathie Wood, and this was probably in 2021, I think it was, maybe. And I didn't pay attention to it. He mentioned her a few more times and saying how she's a con artist. And I just then I kind of ran across her. And I was like, wow, if I had known. And in fact, I remember that some millennial clown told me about, he sucked all the Cathie Wood juice. It was telling me about, oh, you got to watch this girl. You'd like her. Oh, yeah. And this guy, of course, didn't know his head from his ass about investing. And so then I was like, oh, shit, wow, this lady's a con artist. She's an absolute fucking fraud. And then I realized I saw a couple of videos on her, one in particular, where I actually told her, I actually put it in a comment. In fact, let me go ahead and show you now if I can find that. Let me go ahead and show you. Give me a second here. Yeah, here we go. Bear with me. I saw this video and I was like, holy shit, this lady, she's there's something wrong with her. She's mentally ill, or she's just such a blatant fraud. You know, I don't know which it is, because obviously if you're mentally ill and you're saying things, then maybe you believe it. So that addresses the intent issue, right? What's her intent? So you can take a look at this. Back in February 2022, I actually did my first video, I think, on ScamTube February 2nd on her. And then I came across this, and I had to take a look at this. She's talking about how there's deflation. This is just, I don't know, a couple of weeks, let's say, before the Russia-Ukraine war. Inflation was already problematic, right? The Fed was getting ready to raise interest rates the following month in March. And take a look. You can read this here. By now, inflation should be obvious, yet you're still pitching the deflation line. The only deflation we're likely to see is in the price of certain equities, especially small and mid-cap high-tech, rather than consumer prices. A couple of months ago, when ARK was trading at over $110, I forecast a low of $50 sometime over the next couple of years. I believe it has already reached the low 60s. Perhaps that was the bottom, but I'm willing to bet that unless you drastically alter your holdings and or allocations, my $50 target is likely and might even end up being conservative. Regardless, to imply that those who are betting against your fund are betting against innovation is ridiculous. It's a bet against valuation, and that bet is paying out nicely. And so I'm referring to there, I think she mentioned how someone started a fund to short her holdings. And she, her defense is, oh, they're betting against innovation, right? To make that person sound like they're evil, right? No, we're betting against valuation, okay? And ignorance. And here you can see this comment, because of course she preaches this disruptive innovation and how she knows all this stuff and nobody else. She's the smartest person in the room, and everyone's got it wrong, but she's got it right. Like Peter Schiff says, right? How everyone's got it wrong and he's got it right. The market's wrong, he's right. And you know how that turns out with Peter Schiff, okay? One of the worst investors I've ever seen in my life. So I wanted to make the point here, when you're talking about innovation, that I hold graduate degrees in biological chemistry and biophysics, notably from an Ivy League university. But anyway, I've conducted research in alternative energy, material science, and other areas of science. I was involved with biotechnology merchant banking at Bear Stearns in 2002, during a period when everyone was claiming there was a boom in genomics and proteomics. By 2004, I was working on telemedicine and healthcare IT projects in venture capital. The point is this: I'm in touch with technology and innovation as much as anyone on Wall Street. I'm also very aware of valuations. We are not experiencing some, quote, special period of extraordinary innovation in numerous areas, as you claim. I find it a bit funny that you're claiming that the economy is weak as an argument for the need of a slower pace of rate hikes. Perhaps you now understand that the worst is yet to come for speculative stocks, such as those in your ETFs, when rates rise. This was once again February 5th, 2022, pretty much at the peak of the bull market. And let's see here. Let's refresh your memory. You can see here, we'll go with the NASDAQ. I mean, this stuff, I remember this stuff quite easily, but you all probably don't. Many of you anyway, just to refresh your memory. Jesus, it takes too long. It's all about context, folks. Context and perspective. Critical, right? So Here's the NASDAQ, and as a refresher, this was right here. Take a look. NASDAQ peaked out actually in November 2021, I believe. So February right here. Right here. There you go, right here. And what happened? Take a look. See that? Big collapse. Right? ARK, same thing. Much worse for ARK, actually, right? Here's where ARK was, her flagship fund, when I made that comment. Look at that. Wow, at the exact top. Look at that. Boom. Hey, I tried to help her. I tried to warn her. Take a look at that. Take a look at that. Exact top. See, this is weekly chart, so it's from February 1st, February 8th. Almost at the very exact top. And what happened? It was 156.50. And then what happened? I'm sorry. I've got the wrong year. Someone should see. Right here. Yeah. So it had already collapsed. Right. It already collapsed, began the collapse in the beginning of 2021. By 2022, it was on its way down as well, right? I mentioned a few months ago it was around 110, and I said it was going to go down to 50, and I was probably being conservative. So you can see here, right, 2022 right here, and it fell from, I don't know, 60-ish all the way down to a low of, I think it went into the high 20s, I'm not sure. But the closing for the week looks like 31 here. And, even today, it's just 40 still. Okay, so Cathie Wood has been responsible for one of the largest destructions of wealth in world history in terms of the capital markets. That's a fact. She has destroyed more capital than perhaps any other fund, or certainly one of the most destructive funds in history. The only other funds that can come close to her destruction of wealth would be these gimmicky, scammy inverse ETFs, which I highly recommend you stay away from. These inverse ETFs that are, pro short and all that garbage, that's a bunch of garbage. And those, of course, are actively managed ETFs. Folks, let me be clear. In 99% of the cases, for the most part, actively managed ETFs are a fucking scam. Write that the fuck down. They're a scam. I went over this 10, 15 years ago. Okay, actually, more than 15 years ago, I went over this. I thought it was done. But, I guess, actively managed ETFs are a complete scam. I can get into that in the future. The bottom line is ETFs were created as a low-cost means of passive indexing. But that wasn't good enough. The money worshippers, the scammers, wanted more fees. So they sold you this story how they're going to actively manage their ETF and give you better performance. Well, guess what? One of the reasons why ETFs were created was to get away from the higher fees of mutual funds. Did you know that? Right? But active ETFs, you're back to fucking day one with mutual funds. You're back to day one. Okay? Actively managed ETFs are a complete fucking scam, and they should be completely wiped out. It's absolute fraud. Now, are there any exceptions? Kind of, but not really. Have to be very, very special situations that you can't duplicate on your own. Okay? But I would just say, just avoid them completely. I always have, and I always will. There's no need for them. They're also not as transparent in many cases as you may think, and many of them actually are quite dangerous because many of them actually, people don't even know how a lot of these ETFs even operate. So depending upon the type of ETF, some of them actually are dealing with futures contracts, okay, which is going to load up fees. Any of these energy ETFs that are actively managed, especially, you're talking about massive fees. It's complete bullshit. But anyway, I'm not going to get into that. The whole point here is take a look at Cathie Wood's ARC performance. This is her flagship fund. And notice, we're not looking at 1 year, 2 year. We're looking at inception. Okay. Started out in 2014 at 20 bucks. It's up 100% in 10 years. Okay. Oh, it sounds pretty good, huh? The problem is this, folks. The problem is the comparable benchmark is the NASDAQ. So let's take a look at what the NASDAQ has done since that time. Okay, let's take a look here. October 27, 2014. There you go. She's underperformed the NASDAQ. Actually, 75%, not 100%. She's underperformed the NASDAQ, right? Take a look. The NASDAQ has outperformed Cathie Wood by 100%. It's doubled her performance, and the volatility is much lower. Okay? See that? So you could invest in a NASDAQ ETF, a passive NASDAQ ETF, very low fees instead of her high fees. And by the way, I think her fees are stated at 75 basis points. Folks, that's not the total fee, by the way. Okay, there's many charges they don't include there. FYI. Okay. Anyway, point is, you could just buy the NASDAQ. Okay, and if you want to, you can if you want to go that route, you want to go with risky stuff like that. Okay, well, even the NASDAQ or the triple Q, the NASDAQ 100. Let's take a look. This is a the fees are, I think, 20 basis points or so, right? Not particularly cheap, but take a look here. Even better performance. Passive, okay? So let's take a look. This is the past 2 years, okay? Past year. Now, Cathie Wood's fund, ARC, is here in the red and the green candlesticks. You see that? So over the past year, she's down almost 20%, where the NASDAQ 100 ETF through Invesco and the NASDAQ Composite Index are up, 18.5% and 16.5% respectively. Okay? Let's take a look at, well, we already did the 5-year. So her fund is a disaster. It's complete dog shit. She claims that she's an economist. She studied economics. She doesn't know jack shit about economics. And you're going to, if you haven't learned that already by listening to her, we'll probably find that out watching this interview if she talks about economics, because I'm sure she will. It's part of her propaganda, how she twists things around. Folks, once again, let me tell you something. I'm waiting for someone to send me money at some point. Mike, you saved me a shitload of money, and it was quite simple, your advice. And Mike, it was because of your credibility, your credibility in Wall Street, in the world of investments, that your advice, your simple advice, meant a lot. And my advice is this, folks, once again, 95% of you, 90 to 95% of you should just buy the S&P 500 index. And in fact, you should probably just buy an S&P index mutual fund. If you buy a mutual fund, you're not going to trade in and out of it. So you're not going to be tempted, okay? So it's better for your discipline. And you can find inexpensive S&P index mutual funds with low fees. You can find them out there. I think Vanguard even has their mutual funds rather than an ETF. The bottom line is, buy an S&P index ETF or index fund and just forget about it. Okay? You're going to do better in the long term than any of these fuckers. On your own, forget about it. If you're on YouTube listening to this, I'm telling you right now, 99.9999999% of you should buy an S&P index. Okay? You will not ever outperform the index. Guaranteed. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. You must have a competitive advantage if you want to beat the market. Okay? You got to be really good because you're going to be going up against me. Okay? You're going to be going up against Wall Street. You're going to be going up against the hedge fund guys that have all they're paying for order flow and they're front running your fucking orders. You're going to be paying for all these hedge funds that have insider information. You got it? You're not going to beat them. In fact, many of these guys don't even beat the index. And you know why? I'm going to tell you something you probably never heard before. All these idiots that say, oh, your index, they don't even know why the index is so good. I'm going to tell you something you've never heard before. And of course, I'll be copied, but you heard it here first. You know why the S&P is so good? You know why? I'll tell you why. Because of the S&P committee. You've got a committee of individuals, investment professionals that make the selections. It's not just a static index that sits there. When the stocks are no longer perceived to be doing well, they dump them. They make changes. Okay? So you're getting of course the changes aren't that frequent, but they do occur, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 slots per year. So in a sense, it's somewhat actively managed, but very minimally. Okay? So another example showing you, Cathie Wood's funds, folks, show me somebody who over the long term can outperform the S&P index. Show me a fund. I mean, there's some funds, but that's another topic of discussion. The question is, can you as an individual investor beat the index? No, you can't. You need a competitive advantage. Okay? I'm the competitive advantage. But guess what? Guess what? I provide the research. At the end of the day, you have to pull the trigger. You understand? You understand? And some people don't have good judgment. Some people just aren't good at that. Some people, it's a difficult thing. Your emotions get in the way, so on and so forth. Many, many things. Okay? They don't, people don't understand what asset management is all about. They don't understand risk management. They don't understand themselves. They don't understand a lot of things. There's a lot of things going on. So at the very least, you must have a competitive advantage, something that's unique, that other people don't have, something that gives you a sustainable edge above everybody else. You got it? If you don't have that, you're never going to beat the index. Show me somebody out there who has that. Show me somebody. Not many people have that. Okay? Many of the people that do have that, what they have is illegal, and that's insider information or some other type of advantage that they're using. And that's kind of how Wall Street operates. Okay? That's another whole topic of discussion. Okay? And, just think about some of these fund managers out there. The best thing Peter Lynch did was he got out of the business before he collapsed, because chances are he would have collapsed eventually. This is what happens, folks. At the best case scenario, you can have a fund manager who maybe has a nice string of, beats the performance of the S&P for 10 years in a row or whatever, and eventually they fall, they collapse. Exactly what happened to Bill Miller. I did a video on him. I don't think I posted it on this channel. I think he beat the S&P, I think it was 15 years in a row. And guess what happened? He beat the S&P. Why? Because he got lucky. He was a mutual fund manager at Legg Mason, and he beat the indexes during a certain period in the market, right? In the 90s. Okay? But guess what happened in 2006? He did the same thing that made him successful. The same thing that mutual fund managers do. Most fund managers do. You know what they do? They take advantage of dollar cost averaging. That's the power of big funds, of mutual funds, is dollar cost averaging. People don't know that. That's actually what the main resource is. Think about your situation. You're investing and you buy a stock like maybe you listen to fraudsters like Tom Nash and all these idiots that tell you to buy NVIDIA and you don't ever have to work again. They tell you towards the top. And you see it's down now 40% from the highs. FYI, by the way. Versus me, who was recommending it when it was $2 a share 15 years ago. Every year. Okay. My point is to think about, you buy a stock, whatever, it collapses. Another stock, it collapses. Maybe the market collapses. You're down big. You're stuck. You're stuck. And you know these stocks are going to be really good. They're going to, you want to buy more. You can't. You don't have the money. You don't have the ability to lower your cost basis. You see? Funds do, because they have inflows and outflows of cash. And it's obviously better if they have net inflows. So that's how dollar cost averaging works for mutual funds, if they're able to market themselves appropriately, adequately, to get those net inflows, you see. So that right there is another reason why you're disadvantaged. You're disadvantaged as an investor. You say, well, okay, I'm just going to hold cash until I need it. Well, okay, if you do that, though, do you understand how returns are calculated? Returns are not calculated in terms of capital deployed. They're calculated in terms of total capital in your fucking account. If you got cash sitting there doing nothing, that's calculated in your return performance, which is zero if it's not earning any interest. You all know this? Probably not. Okay? So what's one way, by the way, to gain a competitive advantage in that situation as an individual investor? Because you do have advantages as an individual investor. You know, one of the best advantages you have over funds? You can go to cash. Many funds cannot go to cash legally. This is where market forecasting comes into play. Very, very important. If you're able to forecast the market, you know when to get out and when to get back in. That's the key. So one of the most obvious main competitive advantages, if you're an individual investor who wants to beat the market, you better know how to forecast the market or align yourself with somebody who knows how to consistently. Otherwise, forget it. Forget it. You'll never have a chance at beating the indexes, ever. That's fact. Okay? So, with that little discussion, let's go on now and let's take a look at this interview. And by the way, anybody out there, including Cathie Wood, I challenge Cathie Wood. I can get, folks, I will bet you any amount of money Cathie Wood would never go up against me for debate on a neutral platform. Ever. Ever. Guaranteed. You can bet your bottom dollar. She would be scared shitless. Once again, con artists work the following way. They only will speak on a platform where they're protected. Cathie Wood is protected on CNBC. Don't be fooled by, oh, they're scrutinizing her. No, they're fucking not. No, they're not. They're giving her a fucking voice. They're giving her exposure. You want to see someone criticize Cathie Wood? Put me on CNB fucking C, and you see what will happen. Okay? These con artists, whether it's Cathie Wood or Jim Rogers or Peter Schiff or whomever you want, whatever broken clock clown, Harry Dent, they're not criticized. They're protected. So they make it a point to not speak on any type of venue where they're going to be criticized. At most, you get kind of like fake criticism to make it look like, oh yeah, they're grilling her. It's bullshit. It's kind of like what happens in Congress, where you see these congressmen. You all probably don't even know this happens. These things, oh yeah, Elizabeth Warren, she's grilling them. That's all bullshit, you fucking clowns. That's all circus show. That's all a circus show to make you think that people are fighting for you. They're fighting for you. Oh yeah, they're fighting for us. Wow. Don't be naive. So Cathie Wood is only going to talk to individuals on platforms where they're going to let her pitch her scam, her bullshit. That's how these people operate. They don't want to encounter individuals who really know what's going on, or they're going to expose them. Because that's how con artists operate, right? They're conning people. It's a confidence game, you see? That's how it works, folks. So let's take a look now at the interview. So notice the title here, Graham Stephan's clickbait, the greatest wealth transfer. Now, this whole conspiracy nonsense, this is from the gold pumpers and the, the greatest wealth transfer. Yeah, the market's going to collapse. Buy gold. It's the greatest transfer. Don't miss out. This nonsense has been going on for, most of you don't even know this. I've been front and center exposing all this dog shit for more than 15 years. That's why he's posting this nonsense, by the way. So let's take a look at the interview now.
We are on track for a fourth straight week of declines. We have entered a technical correction.
Down 27%. It is the worst day in 50 years.
I think we're going to see the S&P go down 86% from the top, and the NASDAQ 92%.
Wall Street is bleeding. There was a mass sell-off on Wednesday. Investors lost as much as $1 trillion. $1 trillion in a day.
I really think we're going into a deflationary period. And
okay. We got to pause here. Let's see.
We are on track for a fourth straight week of declines. We have entered a technical correction.
Down 27%. It is the worst day in 50 years.
I think we're going to see the S&P go down.
Oh, by the way, a little trick for those of you who don't know. If you want to avoid ads, and you don't have an ad blocker, your ad blocker's not working, here's a little trick. Don't sign into ScamTube. If you don't sign in, they're not going to show you ads. You see, because they don't know who you are, especially if you clear your cookies in your history. You see, they're not going to show you ads unless you're targeted. They want to target you. They're targeting who you are, your demographics. You understand? So if they don't know who you are, then they won't show you the ads. The ads they'll flip through quickly, just like you saw. Okay, a little trick there in case you all didn't know that. You don't want to feed the monster, feed the beast. You don't want to support the criminal operation, YouTube, right? You don't want to have ads play. Ads are what keeps this criminal platform going. It's an absolute scam platform that's destroying the lives of millions of people, young and old.
86% from the top, and the NASDAQ 92%.
Wall Street is bleeding. There was a mass sell-off on Wednesday. Investors lost as much as $1 trillion. $1 trillion in a day.
I really think we're going into a deflationary period. And most people have never seen that. It really hasn't existed since the Great Depression. We are not contrarian just to be contrarian. You ask what's so contrarian? That we buy stocks when they've dropped 30%. This is going to be a very volatile part of your portfolio. And some people have understood that and other people have not understood that. If you're going to ask me at one point in this, is there anything you would leave us with? If you fight, you're probably going to lose.
All right, Cathie Wood, thank you so much for coming on the Iced Coffee Hour. It is an honor.
Thank you. Thank you, Jack and Graham. I'm delighted to be here.
So the first question is, you seem like a very busy woman. How many ETFs do you manage?
We just launched in Europe with 3, and then 8 here. And then we also sub-advise for mutual funds in Japan. So that may be some of what you're seeing. There are a number of mutual funds there.
And what's the assets under management currently?
So we're approaching $25 billion. That includes...
By the way, of course, she's launched quite a few funds, I think, since... a couple of years ago. I do believe at the peak they had 85-90 billion. So given the recovery in the stock market, right? Stock market is significantly higher than it was prior to the collapse in late 2021, 2022. Right? She's nowhere near that. Right? Think about that. She's destroyed billions and billions of dollars of wealth.
It's the Bitcoin ETF.
Yeah. Why should people listen to you?
I've been in the business for more than 40 years. I've seen lots of cycles. You maybe...
Let me pause real quick. I forgot to do this. This is the channel, Iced Coffee Hour. This is a channel, if you want to see scam artists, take a look who Graham is interviewing. He only aligns himself with scammers, by the way. Okay? Meet Kevin, absolute fraudster, scam artist. This Hormozy, I guess it's a girl. Sounds like a dude. I don't know. But you can just take a look. He's aligned himself with Peter Schiff, Michael Saylor, Kevin O'Leary, the same song. I mean, where's Patrick Bet-David, right? Michaela Peterson, another, right? You'll see Timothy Sykes. He promotes scammers. He promotes this guy, Martin Shkreli, the fucking convicted felon who scams people. I mean, this is what you're talking about, folks. This guy, Matt Walsh, who I won't get into his background. I think he's is he a white nationalist or something? But he's not white. That's the thing. Dave Ramsey and his sidekick, this camel guy, obviously con artists. You can just take a look. This is my point, folks. Look, Grant Cardone. I mean, this guy, Billy Yu, who I exposed as well. Look, Ty Lopez. I mean, if you want to see, there he is, Patrick Bet-David. I guess the only person I haven't seen is Robert Kiyosaki, Ben Shapiro. Folks, if you want to see a pretty good who's who list of con artists and scammers and just total pieces of shit, you can take a look at Graham Stephan's Iced Coffee channel, and you can take a look at many of the other channels like Patrick Bet-David, so on and so forth. Once again, con artists, scam artists hang together. They form syndicates. You're on my show, I'll be on your show, and then we can do this, and then we can be on his show. You understand? They sequester people into this whole circle jerk so that you don't escape. You understand? That's how they operate. I've been talking about this for years. So I just wanted to point this out. So, I mean, folks, you're judged by the company you keep. Anyone who's on Graham Stephan's bullshit iced coffee, you assume they're a scammer until proven otherwise.
Asking that now because for a couple of reasons. In 2020, as we really boomed during COVID, we could do nothing wrong. And everything we said, people, were clinging to, although they did not cling to something that I did say at that time, which was keep some powder dry.
Yeah, so let's talk about that here for a second. So, she showed you the ARK fund. And so 2020, where everything basically soared, by the way, right? But here's the situation. Did her holdings soar because they were great stocks or because she pumped them? Folks, you understand what's going on. Did you see the video I just released? How CNBC helped Cathie Wood con people? You understand how the media works, right? Cathie Wood pitched her bullshit. She engaged in a pump, a public pump. That's why all this trash crap that she held went to the moon. And that's why all these YouTube fake investment gurus were pumping her stocks. Peloton. Let me explain. If you didn't realize Peloton was a complete dog shit company from day one, don't ever think that you can buy individual stocks. It's very obvious that was a fucking bullshit company. I told many people when it was $100, $200, I said it's going to be a penny stock and they may not survive. It was obvious. It's so obvious, okay? Many for stocks, because of course I'd be hearing stocks in webinar sessions that I hold. People will be telling about stocks I never heard of. And I'm like, where did you get this? Where is this from? Folks, if I don't know about a stock, I don't know everything, but chances are, if I haven't heard about it and I'm not following it, it's probably not a good idea to mess with it. Okay? That's what I know this from experience. And say, well, gosh, that's pretty arrogant. No, it's not. Because if I haven't heard about it, it tells me one thing. It tells me, if you've heard about it, where are your sources? Where are you going to listen to find out about a stock? Obviously, I'm not going to those same places. Why am I not going to those same places? Don't you think I know where to avoid? Right? You got it? I don't watch CNBC. I don't pay attention to the media. Okay? So I was hearing about all these stocks I never heard of, including Teldocs and all this garbage. I told people, listen, this stuff is garbage. It's probably going to be a penny stock. I was telling people when Zoom was $500 a share, I said, this company is going to be, $20, $50. It's complete horseshit. It's the most overhyped company. And that's exactly what happened. So my point is, Cathie Wood, she manipulated her holdings. She manipulated her holdings. This is one reason why the majority of her holdings are small caps. You understand her scam. She's manipulating small caps because she has massive exposure in the media. It's easy to do that. It's kind of like what these penny stock scam artists do. They will get you in a trading room and they will tell you, okay, time to buy. And they've already bought. And a penny stock is easy to manipulate, right? Because it's a small market cap. And when you're buying, that scammer is selling. You understand? Cathie Wood's doing this on a large scale because she has massive reach. That's what happened. Okay? That's what happened. That's why ARK rose. Now, of course, another reason why it rose was because her main holding was Tesla. Well, why did Tesla rise? Because Tesla was riding the taxpayer gravy train. Was riding the taxpayer gravy train. Okay? So the bottom line is Cathie, she pumped, and she also pumped Tesla, right? She pumped Tesla, and let's take a look at Tesla. Right? You all know it's down from 2 years, probably 50% or 40% or something like that. I mean, let's take a look. So right here, see that? And the reality is hitting with Tesla now. Okay? So when she talks about how, oh yeah, this and that, understand Cathie Wood is a stock manipulator, and she couldn't do it without the media. That's why I say the media is the ultimate problem. And I'm not just talking about CNBC, Bloomberg, all that other garbage. I'm talking about YouTube is involved now too, folks, on a lower level, reaching dumb people, naive people, ignorant people who are so ignorant they don't even have any idea how ignorant they are. Those people, you people, many of you listening to this, you're in harm's way and you don't realize it. And I can guarantee you, no matter how much I say this, no matter what I show and prove, 99% of you aren't going to learn. You're going to learn the hard way. I can't prevent you from I can't move you out of harm's way. Because you're so clueless and don't know it, you're going to learn the hard way. Some people will contact me in the future and they'll say, you know what, you're right. I didn't listen to you. You're exactly right. There'll be a couple of people here and there that will get it, but it's a very small amount. I know this because I know human nature, folks. Okay, I know human psychology. I managed numerous separate accounts on Wall Street. Okay, I dealt with all types of investors, from retail investors, high net worth investors, professional fund managers, some really good experience and some completely clueless and young and dumb. So I know human psychology, especially related to investing. And I know how these things work out. And the vast majority of people, it's impossible. The best thing they can do is stay away from the media, stay off YouTube. That's their only saving grace, honestly. But you can't tell them that.
Because I knew that boom was unsustainable. So now, 3 years...
She knew that boom was unsustainable. And she said, oh, I told you to have some dry powder. Cathie, if you knew that boom was unsustainable, did you hear that? She was basically saying she knew this rise in her fund was not sustainable. Well, if you knew that, why didn't you, at the top, say, you know what? I'm going to radically shift strategies. I'm going to pull into cash. Right? You understand what I'm saying? She's full of shit. She's a typical con artist. She's full of shit.
later, we've been on the down cycle. We went 2 years down. We had another nice burst in 2023. And this year has been a little bit challenging. So I have been through
Yeah, a little bit challenging, huh, Cathie?
a lot of cycles, and truth wins out. If it's on the topic of
Yeah,
innovation,
the truth does win out. It's winning out right now, Cathie. It's winning out right now. You've been absolutely wrong. You're reckless. Your analysts are a fucking joke. They're a bunch of clueless kids. Fact. Write it down.
and investing in innovation, I've been managing money since 1990.
So, once again, the question the little boy asked her was, why should we trust you? So first she wanted to explain her failure. But now she's saying, okay, I've been in the game for a long time. Let's listen to that.
In 2023, and this year has been a little bit challenging. So
here's where she addresses, why people should trust her.
I have been through a lot of cycles, and truth wins out. If it's on the topic of innovation and investing in innovation, I've been managing money since 1990. As the world went into the tech and telecom, what became the bubble, and I also saw the bust. And so I have a frame of reference, and it is this, that the seeds for everything that we are doing now in terms of investing in innovation, those seeds, those technologies, seeds were planted in the 20 years that ended in the tech and telecom bubble, and they've been germinating for the past 20, 25 years. We've been monitoring them. We are ready for prime time. I think the biggest surprise to me, and maybe one of the biggest reasons your listeners might find this interesting, is the tech and telecom bubble. You had investors just throwing money at dreams. Those were just seeds. Dreams. Today is the reality. Those seeds have germinated and they are blossoming now. And yet investors are scared to death. They are investing in.
So you hear what she's saying. She doesn't really want to answer the question. She wants to take this opportunity, this question, to pitch her narrative. So she's basically saying, okay, I've been managing funds since 1990. Okay. On surface, okay, that's good. You're experienced, you've been around. The bottom line is this: if you're that experienced, you got 35 years in the game. Why are we looking at this? Why are we looking at this? Folks, you understand the vast majority of investors that bought her fund bought it here. You understand that. This is what always happens with all these bubbles. Happened with gold in 2010, 11. Right? All the gold pumping con artists pitching all their narratives got everybody in gold at the top, and they had to wait 10 years before they could break even. Okay? In fact, let me prove to you my point on that. Boom. See this chart I made? You got Josh Brown. I'll get into him here shortly. Take a look. He went on CNBC on December 9th, 2021. Right here. ARK is right here. ARK is at, what is it trading at? $97. Right when I guess right around the time, actually a little after the time I actually told people when it was 110 that it was going to 50. He comes on TV on CNBC and he tells everybody, take a look. What does he say? Where's the exact quote here? I would buy the dip. And you can watch the video. Just look it up. Right? I would buy the dip. He's talking about ARK. He'd buy it. He's telling you to buy ARK. Okay? So think about the people, the influence that he has. If you're watching CNBC, you're fucking stupid. Okay. So, they're, okay, well, he's going to buy it. Okay. He's saying to buy it. Think about that. Okay. Think about that. You understand? Folks, Cathie Wood is paying CNBC. She's paying for all the airtime she's getting. It's not being disclosed. It's fucking fraud. She is paying money to get all this airtime. Okay? It's an absolute fucking criminal operation going on. Think about this for a second. You all understand. And Josh Brown, by the way, you all don't know the backstory on this guy. Well, folks, I was living this whole goddamn thing. Where this guy back, when I'm being banned after having predicted the greatest, largest, most severe collapse in world history since the Great Depression, I predicted it in 2 books that were banned. I predicted the details of the financial crisis. The details. Nobody can come close to those predictions. If you don't know that, you can get a start and you can read the 2 chapters on the real estate bubble that I wrote. The 2 chapters in those books. You can see that on the videos on my profile, on the links. That's a good start. And I challenge you to show me anyone who came remotely close to my forecast and the accuracy and the comprehensiveness. Nobody in the world. Yet I'm banned. Think about that. Think about what's going on. Okay? Once you understand my credibility and my track record, you see why I've been banned. Then you're going to understand. It's not because of any politically correct language. I wasn't aware what the hell was going on until I was banned. Okay? You're going to see the criminal operation of the media, the financial media in Wall Street. So I was banned, and you got this guy, comes from nowhere. He was a fucking stockbroker at some shitty-ass firm, some third-tier firm, WestRock, and he writes a blog after he loses his job. The reform broker, and he gets promoted because why? Because his last name is fucking Brown. You know what kind of name Brown is, typically? It's a type of name that gets you in. You understand? He gets all the help he needs. He gets preferential treatment. They teamed up with Barry Ritholtz. Same deal. Some fucking stockbroker who it turns out his firm was shut down by FINRA. That's why he started his blog. Think about it. He called himself the Reformed Broker. What does that tell you? To me, it says he was a criminal piece of shit and he's reformed now. He was a dirty, sleazy scumbag and he's reformed. That's what says to me, is him being a stockbroker. Right? That's what it implies to me. Well, guess what? His firm, as I said, was shut down by FINRA. You can look it up. You can take a look. Josh Brown. Okay? Josh Brown. Go on Broker Check right now. Take a look at WestRock. He was a branch manager of one of the WestRock branches. Now, before you think branch manager means anything, let me just go ahead and tell you in the industry, the branch manager is usually like the most worthless person that can't fucking do anything. So they kind of delegate. They can't produce, so they just kind of delegate, manage people, and make sure the people are productive. That's the truth. Ask anybody in the industry. But so Josh Brown was manager of one of the branches of WestRock, the entire firm, which was shut down because of chronic fraud. So think about it. He's a branch manager. He's overseeing brokers in his branch, many of which possibly were involved in defrauding customers. Okay? Think about this. He calls himself the Reformed Broker. Do you hear about this on CNBC? No. You understand? I know the whole backstory with all these motherfucking pieces of shit, folks. And you know why? Because I sat here and lived through this whole period when I tried to help everybody, warn everybody about the financial crisis. And I was completely fucking shut out. Because my name, first and foremost, was not Brown or Ritholtz. And then, of course, also because I exposed the criminality of Wall Street. I exposed what was going to happen. I mean, think about it. If everybody read my book, where I told people to short, this is the cashing in the real estate bubble, to short Fannie and Freddie, subprimes, Bank of America, Citigroup, the home builders, GM, GE. If I did that, think about it for a second. Wall Street wouldn't be making any money, would they? You'd be taking their money. You see? Anyway, so I wanted to kind of throw that in there for a frame of reference. Remember, these are the people pumping Cathie Wood on CNBC. They're still pumping her. They're giving her airtime. Folks, I lived through this. This Peter Schiff was in the same position as her a few years ago for the longest time. They kept pumping the guy. And he was wrong, pumping him. He still makes his rounds, but not like on a daily performance, because it took the audience, 10 years before they realized Peter Schiff is a fucking clown. People complained. And they're going to do the same thing with Cathie Wood. She'll keep running this whole fucking game. CNBC will keep having her on, allowing her to pitch her bullshit, until finally too many people call into CNBC and say, get that fucking disaster off, she's clueless. And then they're going to get scared. They'll say, oh shit, people aren't going to watch us anymore. We can't make money selling ads to our Wall Street buddies. We got to stop. We got to start really coming down on Cathie Wood. And that's what happened to Peter Schiff. They started coming down on him a little bit. Same thing with Harry Dent. Folks, this is how it works. I'm telling you, I've been around a long time. This is how it works. Okay? But by that time, the public is fucked. They've lost too much money. They listen to these clowns. And they move on to a new guy. You see? They move on to a new guy or a new girl. That's the game they play. So getting back to Cathie Wood, she wants to tell you she's been managing funds for a long time, and she saw the internet, the dot-com bubble. Guess what, Cathie? I was around then too, and I saw it too. And guess what? Some of the activities in 2020, in 2021 resembled the dot-com. Not anywhere near the extent, but certainly there was some bullshit going on, including with all the SPACs, which are all fucking scams, which I talked about previously. I exposed all that, and including cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin. And you're seeing many similarities from the dot-com period, as I talked about recently. This decade. If you think that we're out of the clear, we're not going to have some type of huge collapse at some point before the end of this decade, or maybe, let's say, the beginning of the next, like we did back in 2000, I wouldn't hold my breath, because there's a lot of similarities going on. You've got the poster children, right, that are doing all this stuff. Take a look at all the bullshit going on. Take a look at, so you all weren't around. You weren't around to see back then in the late 90s, you had these commercials on E-Trade where they had retired senior citizens. It's so easy. I kid you not. You can find the commercials. It's so easy to make money. Now it's the kids doing it. Okay? You're seeing a lot of the same things that are happening. Okay? So, you had an extreme with the dot-com frenzy back then. Well, you've got some bullshit like that now, but you also got the whole crypto scam. So, I'm willing to bet there's a good chance, no one never knows, but there's certainly a very good chance that we're going to see a massive blow up in the market. And I'm not talking about the pandemic. That was nothing. See, most investors haven't lived through a devastating bear market. That's the dot-com. If you weren't invested in the dot-com, you don't know what the hell's going on. You all been spoiled. Even the financial crisis, there was a recovery that was fairly quick, considering what happened. Right? It wasn't great, but it was not so bad. The dot-com collapse was terrible. To live through that, I lived through it. And let me tell you, it was fucking agony. You had people that never wanted to invest again and never did. So there's a good chance we're going to see something like that at some point in the next few years. Or sooner. I'm telling you right now, based upon what I know and what I see and human behavior, knowing how things play out. When you have a lot of dumb money and massive speculation by a bunch of fucking idiots, this is what happens. You have a market that's very dirty and corrupt and needs to be cleansed. It's just the way things go. Just from that alone. It has nothing to do with anything else. Nothing to do with valuations, anything. It's about the speculative activity in the markets. I mean, you've got now, people don't even listen to real experts. They listen to people on social media, and those are the experts. Those are the investment experts. The fucking idiots that don't know anything. Everybody's an expert now, right? When you have that situation, you have a very dangerous environment in the market. And what we saw in 2022, I think, is probably just a tiny little taste, and even the pandemic, of what is possible, maybe even fairly likely to happen in the next few years. Now, it's not guaranteed to happen. There could be many other things that could diffuse this. But if things keep going on the same trajectory, because, I thought that maybe the 2022 helped to diffuse things, but, it wasn't long before we got back into the situation, right? So, nobody knows, but I would say unless something changes, people are going to have to learn the hard way. It's just the way it goes. Okay? It's the way it goes. And once again, for those who don't know me, the best thing you can do, the best thing you can absolutely do, is learn my track record. You don't have to, quite honestly, it would probably take several years, even if you have a pretty decent knowledge base and understanding of the capital markets, to really understand my track record. But start small. Take a look at the 2 chapters posted on archive.org on the books I wrote. There's 2 chapters available on the real estate bubble. That gives you a good inkling there. And then what you do is you go out and you search for people who have claimed to have predicted the financial crisis, the media claims they have. Look for the evidence. What's the evidence that they did? You won't find anything. You might hear a statement or a little line, a vague thing. You're not going to see anything like what I wrote. Guaranteed. 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 And if you think so, please put your money where your mouth is. I'll bet anybody any amount in the fucking world on that. Any amount of money, but it's got to be at least 50 grand. Don't waste my fucking time. Okay? Remember, I'm banned. I'm banned. What do you think's going on? What do you think's going on? Do you think the media apparatus wants people who are credible, unbiased, who are ready, willing, and able to help Main Street? They don't want that. They want the opposite. They want to promote people who they can claim are credible, but who are in fact contrarian indicators, because they can create dumb money. That's what the media wants to do. That's what YouTube is doing. Create dumb money. You guys are the dumb money. Because think about it. You're on one side of the trade, and guess who's on the other side? Wall Street. You understand? That's how it works. Okay? I used to think, when I was naive a long time ago, that CNBC, Jim Cramer, oh gosh, you screwed up again. No. Folks, this is all intentional. This is all intentional. This is designed this way. I'm telling you. The advertisement-based business model for media, ad-based content, is designed to screw you. It's a fact. Okay, so let's move on now. Cathie, what's going through, just to refresh your memory, she's going through her little narrative of her little disruptive innovation, and how she saw the dot-com bubble, and that was just the beginning of things, and all the technology was germinating all these years, and now it's ready to go. It's ready to go, and she's on top of it. That's basically what she's saying. Let's listen.
Very few stocks. You've heard about the magnificent, used to be 7, then they threw Tesla out, and then it was 6, and then it was 1, NVIDIA. We know that a very concentrated market like that is either very, very good in terms of what it says about the future, or very, very bad. And we can show you a chart, you can post it, showing that the concentration that we have just seen in the Mag 6 is higher than it has ever been in history, going back to the Great Depression. Great Depression in the 1920s and early 1930s, we saw similar concentration. Why was that?
So what she's basically trying to do here is scare people out of the S&P 500. And it's a scary thing, she's basically saying, and she wants you to invest in her fund. And by the way, her fund, once again, her ARK Invest, her flagship fund, the S&P is not a benchmark. It's the NASDAQ, okay?
Cash was king. Just like cash in the Mag 6 is king. But back then, cash was king because the unemployment rate soared to 25%. Now we're at 4.1%. Real GDP dropped 30%. Real GDP is still growing, maybe more slowly, 1.5%, but growing. And prices were deflating 25 to 30%. So the reason for the concentration in the Great Depression, which again, we're higher concentrated now, was because the situation was binary. Is this company going bankrupt or not? And it was also during a time of great innovation. Telephone, electricity, and internal combustion engine completely changed the world. So what was the number one stock back then? The equivalent of NVIDIA today? It was AT&T. Telephone. It was just proliferating throughout the world. So what does that tell us? How does that inform us about today? If you look at what happened after the peak and that concentration back then, the market broadened out. It started rewarding more companies than just the few being rewarded at peak concentration. And we actually think that's what's going to happen now, that this period of concentration towards the Mag 6 has been a function of two things. One, fear. Interest rates soared 22-fold in little more than a year.
So basically her bullshit, which I know the little kid Graham doesn't understand what the hell she's talking about. Remember this Graham, he barely made it. He was making C's and D's in high school. That's what he said. No college for him. He's a complete idiot, obviously. Reads off a script that's provided to him. So what she's basically saying is, these big stocks, Microsoft and NVIDIA and Google and Apple, right? They're not gonna continue to do so well. What's going to happen is the smaller companies that are feeding off that, right? Her companies are going to do well. So she's kind of making this case like that. Okay. Let me explain something, by the way, folks. You know what happens if there are companies that are smaller that are doing well? Guess what? They're bought out by the big guys. Okay. That's what happens. Let me ask you, how many companies in Cathie Wood's portfolio do you think other companies want to buy? Not a whole lot. I can guarantee you that.
Years' time, and we're still seeing the fallout, especially in real estate, but now in other sectors. That shock led to this desire for cash. And if people were going to dabble in the equity markets, they moved towards the high cash oriented stocks and those that might be helped by this thing called artificial intelligence, just like AT&T was helped by this thing called the telephone back in the Depression. Yeah. Now I think we're going to broaden out, which will reward our strategies, we think, dramatically, because we are not in the mega caps.
Let me ask you this.
So you hear this? So you hear, this is her explanation of why her stocks are going to do well after looking at it. So this period here, I think you all will agree. If you don't understand this, you need to do some take a look at some other charts. Just about every stock soared in 2020 and much of 2021. This was the opening up effect, right? Many of these stocks soared, especially technology stocks. I mean, many stocks. You can just take a look. Okay, so I've talked about this is complete artificial. This performance here is reality for Cathie Wood. But she wants to tell you, she wants to give you this little story where she's not being challenged, that basically why her companies are going to take off and do really well. Didn't happen before. Remember, this is all bullshit. Okay, but she's telling you why it's going to happen now. And I'm here telling you as one of the world's top investment analysts, and nobody can refute that. One of the world's top investment analysts, might be the very best. I probably am, but certainly nobody can refute that I'm one of the world's best. And I'm telling you, she's full of shit. She doesn't know what she's talking about. Folks, it's not just me. If you happen to talk to somebody, a credible person on Wall Street, not a stockbroker or whatever, somebody really credible, they're going to say the same thing about her. Okay, I can guarantee you that. If you can get them in private, they're not going to come out and say it in public. Typically, they don't want to. They work for companies and they don't want to. You understand? But I can assure you, my opinion is not I'm not the sole voice on this. It's pretty much known, and it's common sense. But she's giving you guys this whole little narrative, because you're not going to know any better. It sounds really good, folks. She's in sales. She's pitching a story, and it's bullshit.
Did you get started with investing? Like what piqued this interest?
I was in college. I was 20 years old. I met, and one of my professors was Art Laffer. Art Laffer, I don't know if that name means anything. Probably not.
He's a fucking shill. He's a fucking clown. Okay. One of Larry Kudlow's fucking shill clowns. This is a guy that he didn't have any idea about the financial crisis. Okay. Whatever.
It's in economic circles. It's called,
he's got the right last name, by the way, so he's a genius.
Called the Laffer curve, and it has to do with taxes, and we can get into that if you like. But I met him. I was taking his courses at the University of Southern California, and I was so enthusiastic about what he was teaching, and I just wanted to gobble it all up. I was passionate. He struck a responsive chord, and he knew that a company, Capital Group, downtown LA, was looking for a person to come in and do kind of statistical work, grunt work, I would say. And so that's how I got introduced to.
I don't want to hear about that. Let's see what we got here.
Prediction, or like what you were researching to what actually happened in 1997. Do you remember?
We thought it was what was going to happen was that China was going to flourish. I mean, Hong Kong was going to flourish. It already was flourishing. It was sort of the financial center of Asia at the time. But the question was, would China, bringing China into the equation, cause a boom? And our prediction was yes, that it would. And that.
So you hear what she's saying here? This lady is so full of shit. She's a con artist. It's just that simple. She's saying, oh, well, back in 97, when China was to, regain control over Hong Kong, we thought China was going to flourish because of that. No, has nothing to do with that, Cathie. The reason why China flourished, and they were already doing well, was because of their opening up, which began with Deng Xiaoping several years earlier. That's why. And then they entered the World Trade Organization in 2001. Prior to that, in 2000, Clinton put them in the most favored nations for most favored trading partners program. That's why China flourished. It had nothing to do with fucking Hong Kong. It's just clueless.
That is what happened. And in fact, what we didn't predict, though, was that the World Trade Organization would invite China in the very early 2000s. And that
you see, how can you not predict that? You understand, folks? That's the key. That's the key right there. The World Trade Organization, which I wrote about in my 2006 book. Of course, I exposed everything with the U.S.-China trade relations, the toxic, the threat to national security. I exposed all this shit before anybody had a fucking clue. So she doesn't know what she's talking about. She's full of shit. She's absolutely full of shit. This lady is a compulsive bullshit artist.
Would reinforce the financial boom and, bring us almost 20 years of really Asia flourishing. And Capital Group at the time in the 70s was one of the very few American managers who thought anything outside the U.S. was interesting. We were very myopic. The business was back then. And Capital was very adventurous. Really, I think one of the first firms to set up offices in Switzerland and in Tokyo, Hong Kong. So, it was a great call for Capital Group.
But before we get into that, as you can tell from this episode with Cathie, AI might notice when we were researching you, some of your most popular topics and videos are on Bitcoin.
Yes.
I'm curious, when did you first hear about Bitcoin?
2011, Brett Winton, who is our chief futurist at ARK now, but who was the senior analyst.
Chief futurist. Folks, anyone who calls himself a futurist, that's a synonym for con artist. Futurist, con artist, okay? Futurist. Of course, Cathie was a Bitcoin pumper. I said it before, I'll say it again, folks. You will never find a truly credible investor, at least professional investor, who, as an amateur investor, you are. It's up to you. You have the right to to consider cryptocurrency as an investment, but it's just not legitimate. As a professional investor, sorry, you can't do that. Okay, there's no legitimate, credible professional investor who will ever commingle cryptocurrencies with investments. Okay, now, will that change in the future? Probably, as it becomes more regulated. Okay, but I still won't agree. I mean, it's backed by nothing. It's garbage. Cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, this is a fact, write it down. Bitcoin is facilitating, is financing illicit activities throughout the world. Most of Bitcoin, most of cryptocurrencies, the assets in those cryptocurrencies are illicit, are either illicit proceeds or are being used for illegal means. That's a fact. Money laundering, drug trade, human sex trafficking, even the ransomware, right? Think about ransomware. You're hearing about these attacks on these institutions, hospitals being shut down, municipalities being shut down, utilities companies, corporations, malware. Guess what payment they want? They want Bitcoin. Think about that. Think about that for a second. You tell me Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies aren't criminal. But of course, it's gotten to the point now, cryptocurrencies are not going away. And I talked about this many years ago. I knew they'd be regulated. Why? Because Wall Street runs the industry, and they've run the industry for many years. Wall Street took over the industry once the exchanges were launched. Okay, cryptocurrencies were peer-to-peer. They're no longer peer-to-peer. They're not being used for peer-to-peer. You're going through an exchange. If you're going through an exchange, it's no longer decentralized. Okay? So, well, I want to avoid the government. Tell you what, I'd rather rely on the government for my money and accountability than some guy with the cryptocurrency based in the Bahamas. You understand? When you're going through crypto exchanges, it's no longer centralized. You're going through some guy who you think is going to be honest, who's not going to be posting fake trading volumes and giving you shitty execution, which is what's going on. It's all a scam, okay? That's why I say no cryptocurrency. Get the biggest crypto expert in the world. They will never fucking go with me to debate them on a live, neutral platform because I'll expose the whole truth about cryptocurrencies. They won't do it. Guaranteed. It's obvious. Try it if you want. Contact them. Contact Cathie Wood. So on and so forth. You'll get nothing. You'll get no response. Okay? I know this because I've been doing this shit for years, folks. I know how these frauds operate. They operate off of making sure they promote their narratives to stooges or to people who aren't going to challenge them, who might pretend like they're going to challenge them, but are too unsophisticated to challenge them or are kind of in their pocket. So they can make sure and spread their propaganda to the sheep. Okay? You want to make money in cryptocurrency? Start an exchange. Okay? Just like these precious metals dealers. You want to make money in gold and silver? Become a gold and silver dealer. All right? That's how you make money. I've been saying this for years. It's the people that are going to lose all the money, the ones buying into this shit. Cryptos aren't going away. I said this many years ago. They're going to be regulated gradually. Why? Because Wall Street controls it. Wall Street's making too much money off of it. And it's funny because the vast majority of these people in crypto, I want to get away from the banks. I want to get away from the government. You're not getting away from the banks. What are you talking about? Who do you think runs all these crypto exchanges? I mean, you think about it. You understand Wall Street firms, venture capital firms are funding, they're financing these crypto exchanges. They launched these many venture firms launched their own coins and NFTs. You understand. One of the biggest investors in crypto is a venture capital firm. Right? Horowitz, California, right? There's several of them. Take a look who runs Coinbase. Mr. Armstrong. In case you didn't know the last name, it's Yep, you got it. That's right. Doesn't sound like it, but yep. So I know the whole deal, folks. Okay? That's why you got the situation as you see going on here. And when you take a look at who's regulating, who's responsible for regulating this stuff, we'll take a look at who runs the SEC. Who runs the SEC? Who's the guy in charge of the SEC? What's his name? I think his name is Gary Gensler. Okay. And why do you think he got promoted from the CFTC, the Commodities Futures Trading Commission, which regulates commodities? He got promoted from there to the SEC. You know why? Well, let me kind of refresh your memory. He's the guy that approved the first Bitcoin futures on the through the CFTC, through the commodities exchanges. You got it? So when you hear like, oh, Gary Gensler's a bad guy for crypto, he's not good, that's bullshit. It's an act. It's all an act. Okay? He's their guy. That's why he was put into the SEC, by the way. Okay? That's why Gary Gensler was backing all this bullshit. I did articles and videos on this 1 year ago, 2 years ago.
And we said, great. They didn't say that it couldn't rise from 1%. And so we let it rise. And of course, so it moved from $250 when we got in September of 2015. So toward the end of 2017, I think it hit $20,000. So swoosh.
Yeah. What does Bitcoin solve?
It solves a lot of things. To us, Bitcoin means three things. One, it's a new technology. Blockchain.
Okay, great. New technology is everywhere. That doesn't solve anything.
Technology is a new technology, but to simplify it.
You heard that. By the way, blockchain technology, you all do know, is not the same as cryptocurrency. They are different. Blockchain technology, don't confuse that with cryptocurrencies. Cryptocurrencies utilize blockchain technology, but you don't have a cryptocurrency only with blockchain technology. You only have a cryptocurrency once you attach blockchain technology to other types of other things like wallets, exchanges, so on and so forth. So don't be confused to think that cryptocurrencies are legitimate just because blockchain technology is legitimate. It's not the same as cryptocurrency. Blockchain technology is a technology that's being used by cryptocurrency, right? You all know this, right? But anyway, so he asked, what problems does Bitcoin solve? And so she brings up blockchain technology, which, is kind of, she's trying to kind of dance around the issue. Let's see if she talks about specifically what Bitcoin solves.
All we're doing here is layering into the internet the layer that developers forgot to build in the early 90s because no one understood that financial services or commerce would take place on the internet. So I was there and I remember agreeing with everybody, I will never put my credit card on the internet. This is not secure, right? And so they never built it in. So blockchain technologies of all types are an answer to that. This is peer-to-peer technology, taking a lot of middlemen out of traditional finance.
You hear that? So she's going back to the whole peer-to-peer argument, taking the middleman out. That's not true, folks. Now, in terms of the operating of Bitcoin, some of you all know how it works better than me. I've never used it. But surely unless you are utilizing cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, peer-to-peer, you're making transfers between you and another person or another party. That's peer-to-peer. Ask yourself this question. What percentage of transactions today are peer-to-peer versus non-peer-to-peer versus going through exchanges? Ask yourself the question, what percentage of transactions today are purely for just payment versus speculation? People thinking they're going to get rich. You understand what I'm saying? When Wall Street entered cryptocurrencies, it completely changed the game. Wall Street transformed the cryptocurrency industry from a somewhat arguably useful resource, peer-to-peer transactions, into a casino, into a roulette wheel. for which they stood to make money off of. You understand? That's why it's been, no one talks about this in the cryptocurrency industry. They don't talk about how the integrity of the entire industry is gone. It was first peer-to-peer, and now it's not peer-to-peer. It's not decentralized anymore. You're going through exchanges, and people they're staking their tokens, looking for yield, speculating, trading. I mean, are you fucking kidding me? Think about that. It's all being done. Wall Street did all this, okay? When Wall Street got involved, that was the beginning of the end of crypto in terms of being something that might be valuable for people. Now it's a huge scam for Wall Street to take your money. You're not going to hear anyone talk about this other than me. Why not? Why? Right? You have to ask yourself the question, why you're not hearing this elsewhere. I mean, is what I'm saying so outlandish? Is it so far-fetched? Is it so detached from reality? Of course not. What I'm saying is absolutely reality. But once again, Cathie was talking about peer-to-peer. She's so fucking ignorant, she doesn't realize the peer-to-peer thing is essentially gone. People aren't using it for that. It's not decentralized anymore. It's centralized to the sucker, to the idiot that you're trusting with this crypto exchange located somewhere in some Caribbean island or somewhere else. And you're hoping that they're going to give you your money back. They don't have to. If they become insolvent, they keep your money legally. And guess what? You wanted to get away from the government. You didn't want regulation, so guess what? Sorry, Charlie, can't help you. You wanted to trust some guy behind some facade. Sam Bankman-Fried is a great example. Remember how the media built him up? He's a genius. He's a genius. In fact, Jim Cramer called him the next J.P. Morgan. Right? The next J.P. Morgan. I guess it's true. I mean, wasn't J.P. Morgan kind of a fraud? Wasn't he like a scam artist? Right? I mean, he's behind the whole banking system and, the whole, the Federal Reserve and that whole racket. I mean, folks, never forget the people who are behind the scam, who helped the scam. You understand? Never forget Graham Stephan, what he did. Never forget all these guys. Meet Kevin, all these guys. They didn't pay the price. Graham Stephan paid like $5,000 to settle his lawsuit. Nothing. He made hundreds of thousands of dollars promoting crypto. Maybe millions. Never forget the media who's promoting these frauds. You understand? You can't forget this stuff. You need to call these motherfuckers out. You forget, and they continue to do it. They pay no price. You understand?
Services, taking layers of fees out. And those fees are anywhere from 2.5% to 4% of any given transaction. That's the first thing, a technology. The second.
So you hear about the fees now? Folks, fees are there for a reason. Give you an example. If you're paying something with Bitcoin, okay, you pay for something with Bitcoin, you get scammed. Guess what? Your money's gone. Sorry, Charlie. Tough shit. Right? If you get scammed, and you pay with your credit card, guess what? You're protected. You understand? You're protected. You get your money back. The credit card company will fight for you. Right? Right. There's many other things those fees cover. Okay? That's just one example off the top of my head. But she's also talking about, fees. Let's think about this for a second. Yeah. When Bitcoin was used for peer-to-peer, the fees were low. But once again, folks, take a look now at the fee generation. Wall Street got involved, created this casino wheel called exchanges to get you to speculate. People are renting out computerized bots to trade for them overnight. I mean, you all know this, right? There's fee upon fee upon fee. So that whole fee argument's gone. The whole cryptocurrency industry has been transformed into a fee-generating machine for the Wall Street parasites to control it. You understand? So, sorry, Cathie, that argument's gone. Let's update it.
Second is it's a monetary system. So, and each one of these words is important. It's the first, global, private, meaning no government oversight, digital, decentralized, rules-based.
So, first of all, I can guarantee you it's going to have government oversight. Trust me on this. Cryptocurrencies will not exist in the future without it's a gradual process. Okay. And by the time the situation's over, it's going to resemble a lot of other things, other forms of payment. The government is gradually moving in. Why? Well, don't you want the government to move in after all these fucking frauds? You understand why the government's involved now? You understand why it's good for the government to oversee critical things like payment systems? Otherwise, you're going to see the Ponzi schemes like Void Your Digital, Celsius, Terra Luna, FTX, many others, BlockFi. You understand? All these people who were sold on the idea, yeah, get the government out of the way, get the government. This is the whole conspiracy bullshit. Oh, government's bad. Okay. You were sold on that bullshit. Well, take a look at what happened. You lost your ass, and now you're crying to the government to get your money back. Well, fuck you is what I got to say. Fuck you. So Cathie is talking about nonsense. The government's already getting more and more involved, and they're going to be completely involved at some point. So that argument doesn't hold, Cathie. Sorry. Doesn't work. You're wrong. Again.
Monetary system in history. It is a very big idea, and my
monetary system. Monetary system? I don't think so. Sorry, Cathie, you're wrong. It's not a monetary system. It's not a monetary system. At best, it's a means to make payment. That's at best. However, I would say today it's not even that. Today, it is absolutely a casino. It's a casino, a roulette wheel. That's what it is.
Former professor, now friend, Art Laffer, couldn't be more excited. He's about to turn 84, and this has rejuvenated him because he says this is an opportunity to go back to the U.S.
Has to say, I don't care. He's a clown.
Pre-Fed.
He's promoted by the media because he's in the right. He's got the right ethnicity.
So pre-1913, when we were basically using private money. So it will give the dollar a run for its money, so to speak.
Yeah. Why do you think that older people...
When you hear that, it's going to give the dollar a run for its money. I mean, I guess you can get away with a stupid statement like that when you're talking to Graham Stephan, the guy who barely passed high school, and the guy who he would sell his mother for a penny, right? It's going to give the dollar a run. It's not a monetary system, Cathie. You're a fucking idiot. Okay? It's going to give the dollar. So let's think about what the dollar is and what the dollar stands for, folks. And you hear all this nonsense. Oh, the dollar's collapsing. Oh, they're printing so much currency. It's worthless. Folks, I've been dealing with that bullshit for 15 years. I've already exposed all that nonsense. It's a bunch of horse shit. Okay? This is a line from the whole Peter Schiff doomsday con artist factory. Now, let me just kind of lay it out for you guys. And many of you, if you're from America, you probably are the ones that believe all this horse shit. Most people from outside of America, especially developing countries, they realize it's horse shit. You know why? Because they know what it is to be in a currency that's shit. Okay? When you're talking about the US dollar, and by the way, let me just remind everyone, I'm an American citizen, but I'm pretty negative on America. Okay? I don't have many good things to say about the U.S. because I know what's going on. I know exactly what's going on. But I'm not an extremist. America has some great things about it. And so I'm going to point those out. Okay? I'm not one of these people, oh, America's bad, it's so terrible. If you think that, you've never been to America or you have never lived in other countries. Okay? But when it comes to the dollar is obviously the strongest currency in the world for many reasons. And I'm not saying strong in terms of the exchange rate or whatever. I'm talking about when you think of a currency, you all understand what a currency is backed by? Right? A currency is backed by several things. It's backed by the taxing authority of the government. Think about that, the taxing authority of the government. America is one of and if you compare countries in the world, let's say America compared to Europe, the tax compliance in America is higher than Europe. Although there's many people who get away with tax fraud in America. If you think it's bad in America, go to some other country and see. It's very lax in many other countries. Okay? The taxing authority of the American government, the ability of the American government and their policing system to make Americans pay taxes is very strong. And you're talking about people in a country who have amongst the highest median wages in the world. So the dollar is also a derivative of the strength of the U.S. economy. Okay? It's also, which is of course it's part of America's innovative power. You take a look, people say, oh, the dollar's going to fail. Oh, really? So if the dollar fails, doesn't that mean pretty much every single relevant institution in the world fails? Microsoft fails, Apple fails, Nvidia fails, right? I mean, come on. America also has the most powerful military in the world. You understand? That's also a derivative of the currency. So when you look at there's many other things as well. I'm not going to get into it. But when you look at what a currency is all about, okay, and you wonder why some of these other currencies in other countries are, problematic. Well, take a look at those countries. Take a look at their economies, the stability, look at the fraud, the corruption. You understand? Take a look at Latin America. Their currencies are all over the place typically. If it's not Venezuela, it's going to be Argentina. If it's not Argentina, it's going to be Brazil. Why? Well, take a look at those countries. Take a look at their political systems. Take a look at their corruption. You understand? So Cathie Wood's saying Bitcoin's going to give the dollar a run for its money. It's complete horseshit. She knows what she's talking about. Bitcoin is a payment system at best, and in reality, it's a fucking casino. It's a roulette wheel. That's what it is. But she doesn't want to tell you that. She wants to get you to invest in her Bitcoin fund.
Are less receptive to Bitcoin, like Warren Buffett or Charlie Munger, so against it. And it seems like young people love it.
Yeah.
Anyone over the age of 50, for the most part, either they don't know about it or they're very skeptical. What do you think that is?
I think partly it's technology, that there's discomfort. Warren Buffett famously has said, if I don't understand it and I don't understand most technology, I'm not going to invest in it. Now, he did invest in IBM kind of at the wrong time. So that proved, to reinforce what he was saying. However,
she's basically saying Warren Buffett doesn't embrace tech, and she's speaking for, I guess Warren Buffett is supposed to be for all older people. Graham saying all the older people don't like Bitcoin. Folks, the older people don't like Bitcoin. You know why? Because the older people have a perspective on life. The younger people accept it because they're fucking stupid. If you're young, you're stupid. That's just the way it is. Everyone that's young is stupid. When I was young, I was stupid. Okay? You're ignorant. I guess ignorance is a better word. You just don't know. You haven't lived life long enough. You don't have the perspective. You haven't been around long enough to know. That's why older people are known as wise, right? They're wise if you're older. That's why older people typically don't like Bitcoin. They've been around. The young people, these are the people, oh yeah, technology's so great. Oh yeah, Facebook is great. Oh yeah, I want Facebook. Because they're fucking ignorant. They don't understand. So, but she's saying basically, well, Warren Buffett, he doesn't understand technology, So I guess Warren Buffett's not sophisticated enough to understand Bitcoin. I think he understands Bitcoin. Okay, it's not that difficult. Once again, you're seeing a great example of Cathie Wood, the master con artist, spinning everything, never being challenged on anything. She's absolute pathological con artist. This lady, tell her anything, she'll have a story for you. That's what I see.
He didn't give up. He did invest in Apple, and that's been, a grand slam for him. So, but very little interest in technology, and a lot of people pay attention to him, especially more value-oriented investors, where, in technology, you've got.
So you hear that? So basically, older people typically pay attention to Warren Buffett, and that's why older people don't like Bitcoin because Warren Buffett doesn't like it. Okay.
Very often, you have to invest aggressively. A company has to invest aggressively in the short term, forgo short-term profitability in order, with the perspective I just shared with you, which is, okay, these seeds were planted back then. They weren't ready. And so if you weren't doing the kind of research we're doing in terms of trying to figure out when technologies are ready for prime time, then they were going to get hurt. And a lot of people did get hurt back then. And so that's a memory. Losing money is painful. It's, you know, I know there are studies, you probably know the studies where it's much more painful to lose money than it is enjoyable to make.
Yeah, I think the risk reward on that was the gain of $1 was equivalent to like a loss of $2. So like the loss was twice as worse as like gaining $1.
Yes. The third way to think of Bitcoin. So we've got technology, global monetary system, and a new asset class, which is why we are really excited. And, you know, the ARC21 shares Bitcoin.
Asset class. That's interesting. Of course, you know, you're hearing about that as an asset class, but think about what an asset class is. Let's think about that for a second. What's an asset class? What's an asset? Right? How is Bitcoin an asset class? How is it an asset? What do you have with Bitcoin? Right? You have nothing. It's backed by nothing. You get nothing out of it. The only thing that you can get, you're hoping that when you put your money into that crypto scam, you're hoping that some guy running the crypto exchange in the Bahamas is going to give you your money. You understand? Has no value at all. It's all psychological. I mean, you look at precious metals. Precious metals are largely driven by psychology, market psychology. Okay? But at least you've got gold. I mean, gold, you know, at the very least you can make gold jewelry, you know, it's used to some degree in industry. Silver, same thing. You've got something there. It is an asset. It's not much of an investment asset. But it is, you know, it's considered. But what do you have with Bitcoin? You have nothing. I mean, think about it for a second. If you turn off the electricity, turn off the power, it's gone. oh, sorry, Bitcoin's gone. I can't get my Bitcoin. Why? Well, there's no power. Think about that for a second. Your asset is based upon the ability to have electricity. I mean, if you don't have electricity, you can't have access to your asset, right? So it's clearly, regardless of what anyone wants to call it an asset class, it's a bunch of horse shit. Okay, they can call it whatever they want, you know, but the fact is it's not an asset. It's just the smoke and mirrors.
Bitcoin ETF is a good example. We have enjoyed tremendous inflows, and I'd like to think it is because we wrote our first piece on Bitcoin in 2014. We've earned our stripes. We had our first white paper with Art Laffer, Could Bitcoin Serve the Three Roles of Money? That was 2015. And then we wrote our second white paper, Bitcoin, Ringing the Bell for a New Asset Class. That was 2016. And finally, the SEC approved earlier this year a Bitcoin, or many Bitcoin ETFs. So we think institutions have not moved very aggressively thus far into Bitcoin. Why? It's because they need to do their due diligence. They need to, we've spent 10 years doing this, so we're very comfortable. You know, if you look at BlackRock, for example, until I'm going to say 3 years ago, BlackRock was pointing to the, you know, negatives associated with Bitcoin. And then, of course, there was the conversion. And fantastic. I think BlackRock has done a lot for this movement of Bitcoin into a new asset class, but we've barely begun on that.
What price targets?
Of course. I mean, folks, think about it. BlackRock's got their own ETFs now. You want to make money in Bitcoin, start your own fund, your own exchange, your own ETF. Okay? That's the people making the money. You guys are the stooges. You understand? You all are the enablers.
Do you have for Bitcoin? Everyone loves this.
Yes. So we are in print. Our base case is 650,000, but that base case was set before the SEC approved the Bitcoin ETFs. And so we are more convinced now that our bull case of 1.5 million by 2030 is the more likely.
You got it, folks? Let me get this on the screen here.
What price targets do you have for Bitcoin? Everyone loves this.
Yes. So we are in print. Our base case is 650,000, but that base case was set before the SEC approved the Bitcoin ETFs. And so we are more convinced now that our bull case of 1.5 million by 2030.
There you go. So think about this for a second, folks. 1.5 million by 2030. Okay, look. You want to be a millionaire? 5 years, 5.5 years. You got $55,000. You can become a millionaire. 5.5 years, 55 grand. Put it in Bitcoin. Cathie Wood says you're going to be a millionaire. Think about that for a second. So think about if that happens. Okay. Easiest way to make a lot of money, right? Easiest way to make a lot of money, right? Easier, maybe, well, I don't know. I have to do the math. Think about my NVIDIA investment. Turn 50 grand into 15 million. That's 15 years. I don't know. 50 million. I don't know. Do the math. That's a real investment, though. But, so think about that. So she's pumping. I want you all to think about this carefully. Remember, Cathie Wood has a wide platform that she's provided with. She pays for paid promotion, or she's paying to get into interviews and so forth. She's pumping her stocks. She's also pumping Bitcoin, right? Her and others, they're all pumping Bitcoin. Why? Because they stand to benefit big time. And so Bitcoin is based on nothing. It's not a real asset. It produces nothing. It's worth nothing. At the end of the day, it's only worth right now what a willing buyer and seller. If Cathie Wood and all these crypto cons can convince people of this, well, guess what's going to happen to the price? It's going to go up. You understand? They're creating a self-fulfilling prophecy. You understand? It's a con game. It's what it is. It doesn't matter where Bitcoin goes. It's all a con game. And at some point, the air could be let out of this bubble. One of many things can happen. Right? I just find this disgusting that you have someone in the investment world. There's a few people in the investment world. There's going to be more and more, because it's all run by Wall Street now, that are equating this to an investment. It's a gamble. That's what it is. It's a speculative gamble. You're investing in something that's worth nothing. Essentially, it has no real value. It only has perceived value. Right? It only has perceived value. Nothing else. 1.5 million. Wow. I mean, maybe I'll buy me one Bitcoin. You know, get me $1.5 million by 2030. 2030, that's going to come pretty quick, right? Let's see how big how successful the whole con game is with all these frauds out there.
Is the more likely case.
Do you think Bitcoin is currently a singularity, or do you think it will be that in the future, and when will that be?
So when you say singularity as it relates to Bitcoin, what do you mean?
Like you can't contain it at a certain point.
Oh, I think we've passed escape velocity. There's no way to shut Bitcoin down. And China tried, and all the activity that was in China just migrated. There's no oversight. There's no throat to choke, and it has proliferated to such an extent and is serving a really important role, especially in emerging markets where people, of various countries, if they're leaders.
You hear that? Of course it's not going to be stopped. I told you why. And she's saying, well, there's no oversight. The government's, folks, it's being gradually reined in, regulated. If you don't see that, you got your eyes closed. It's not going to be stopped because there's too many Wall Street, venture capital, and other parasites that are making money off of you. Okay? Do I need to remind you? FTX, Celsius, Voyager Digital, BlockFi, Terra Luna, so on and so forth, and hundreds more that collapsed, right? There's no oversight. Yeah, there needs to be oversight, and there will be oversight. And as I say, Bitcoin has lost its initial advantages. Its initial integrity is gone. It's no longer decentralized, right? It's no longer decentralized. It's going on exchanges, and it's not a means of payment mainly. It's a means of speculation. It's a complete fucking casino. It's fact. So once again, Cathie doesn't know what she's talking about. She's full of shit. And she mentions, oh, well, developing countries. Of course, yeah, look, if you're in a developing country, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. Certainly, cryptocurrency is something that you should look at. Okay? No doubt about it. Developing countries have a lot of instability. But guess what? Most people putting the most money in cryptocurrencies aren't from developing countries. Cryptocurrencies are being fueled by people in advanced countries, people who don't need to be dabbling with that shit. Certainly, if you're in an unstable type of country, no doubt about it. No doubt about it, because the risks that you're taking dealing with cryptocurrencies, you're dealing with risks in your own country with your currency, right? No doubt about that. Massive devaluation of currencies happens all the times in many countries, right? So, but once again, do you live in a emerging country, third world country, developing country, right? That's the question you ask.
Either don't understand economics or there's corruption, and they lose purchasing power and wealth, to the tune of 50% in a very short period of time. Even this year, Egypt, I think it was the beginning of March, devalued the Egyptian pound by 40%. And so having an insurance policy like Bitcoin is really important in emerging markets.
So the bear case for Bitcoin.
Yeah, emerging markets, there you go. That's the first thing she said that's legitimate. But what about advanced markets, right, Cathie? Why didn't you say that? You see?
Isn't even that it could just go nowhere, but that it will 20x in 5 years.
I mean, you've seen the corrections are violent because it is so early and so young. The corrections used to be 95%. Now they're more like 75%. That's a lot. So I don't want anyone to think that it's straight up and to the right, because the corrections are pretty violent. They're getting less so. And I think as Bitcoin moves more into mainstream investing, the volatility will go down dramatically. So it's not like we're saying it won't go down. It will. It's a new asset class. And there are a lot of, I would say, weak holders. They get in because of FOMO, so fear of missing out. And then they lose 20% and then they get out. They cut their losses. So that exacerbates moves down. So
Michael Saylor said something that was really interesting, and I think I don't want to misquote him, but he said the only true threat to Bitcoin is a competitor that is somehow better.
Bitcoin is backed by the largest computer network in the world, and therefore it is the safest cryptocurrency or crypto asset out there. It has not been hacked. The base layer has not been hacked. I don't think any other crypto asset.
The problem, folks, is that you can't just worry about the base layer being hacked. It doesn't need to be. I can guarantee you it can be hacked. But there's no need to hack it when you can go after the lower hanging fruit. Why actually hack the Bitcoin network when you can hack wallets, you can hack exchanges? You understand? That's what's going on. You don't need to try and hack that. So is it safe? Well, okay. Let's move on here. Let's see what we got.
Episode and back to the podcast. How do you approach stock picking?
To understand that, you need to understand a little bit about the starting point of our process. So as you interview other asset managers, they probably talk to you about bottom-up investing. Bottom-up meaning company by company. We look at the companies and they teach us how the world's going to work. We don't do that. We actually start from the top down. And
you all understand that, right? It's actually kind of coincidental. I actually did a webinar explaining all this just last weekend. I can tell you all, folks, by the way, bottom-up investing is actually, generally speaking, the best way. Overall, the best way. If you want to find, in my opinion, that's how I was able to identify market winners, blockbusters in their infancy, right? 15 years ago, more than 15 years ago, NVIDIA, Netflix, many others. Bottom up is the way to go. But she's telling you she's top down, which makes sense. I mean, take a look at her investments. They suck.
We are as bottom-up stock research driven as any other team you'll find. Are the costs associated with this technology going to fall? And there's a very predictable way to find that out. So have you heard of Moore's Law in the semiconductor space?
So basically, she's focusing on how quickly she thinks the costs are going to decline. That's the center point of her research. What a fucking idiot. Wow. That explains a lot there, Cathie. What a fucking moron.
Get an idea, just like, okay. One of the ideas very early on was when we did our autonomous taxi work, so robotaxi work. Many people think that, robotaxis, as they proliferate, and we think we're getting close to prime time there.
Oh, you mean the fraudulent claims made by Elon Musk and Lex Friedman, that piece of trash, low self-esteem, insecure loser, Lex Friedman, who I question his academic credentials. I think probably there's something fishy going on there. This guy, airhead clown, idiot, who made a bunch of, who's misrepresented himself many times, who promoted Elon Musk's full self-driving technology horseshit a few years ago in order to get in good graces with Elon Musk so he could get on his podcast and grow his channel. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's self-driving. Wow.
That traffic jams will go away. No, they won't, because if the costs come down the way we think, there's going to be much more congestion. Many people will take robotaxis. And so that pushed us up into the sky. That's what started our eVTOL work, so electric vehicle takeoff and landing work. So one thing will lead us to another. And in fact, very early on, we learned that NVIDIA was going to be the AI play of the century really? In 2014, when Tasha Keeney, who has done a lot of our robotaxi work, going through original research, white sheet of paper, what's an autonomous vehicle, and going in, doing research in academic, in universities, on social media, learned that the brains or the central nervous system of a robotaxi are going to be GPUs. No one knew that at the time. They were just PC gaming chip companies. Nothing. No, NVIDIA was nothing.
Actually, Cathie, you're wrong. You're wrong. You don't know what you're talking about. Cathie Wood is lying again. I'm the guy that identified NVIDIA back in 2001, FYI, when I was working on Wall Street, started recommending the stock. I realized they would be dominant. They were already dominant. They were dominant in the graphic chips cards, but it wasn't known. I knew the future was going to be video. Okay, video, and I knew they would take over. Of course, AI became a later segment for them. But Cathie Wood is basically saying, oh, we got into NVIDIA early on. We saw this thing early on. Oh, really? Is that why you don't see NVIDIA in her funds? You all understand that, right? Why isn't NVIDIA a core holding? Right? She's full of shit. As always, let's take a look. Take a look. I don't see NVIDIA here, even now, right? In fact, Cathie Wood bought it, I think, a year ago or so, and she sold it before it soared last year. Sold it before NVIDIA took off big time about a year ago, about 14 months ago or so, when they came out with that huge, like unprecedented revenue boost, right? I think it was like May 8th or something like that. I don't know. Last year, that's when it took off. Okay. Big time. Anybody remember that? Yeah, right here. She sold it before that. And she didn't, I don't even think she had it, she probably bought it like 6 months before. Okay. I've been recommending NVIDIA And I've got evidence every single year in my research since here. Okay. Oh, I forgot to adjust for the latest split. Yeah. I've been recommending it at 25 cents, split adjusted, not $2. Forgot about that last split. 25 cents. You see that? I've got anybody that doubts it, I've got the proof. Okay, it's a fact. And I have subscribers with me, I don't know about this long, but pretty close to this that know. And I was recommending it back in 2001. Okay. So she doesn't know what she's talking about. She's full of shit. But you see, everything she spins in her favor. She's a con artist.
More than that, it was commodity. And that's when we started legging into NVIDIA in a big way.
Interesting. Okay.
Oh, legged into it in a big way. Really, show us the results. Show us. Another fucking lie.
Okay, so help me understand. You're saying that Wright's law, that sounds kind of like, if I'm using this correctly, economies of scale,
yes.
where like obviously as it gets bigger, it just becomes cheaper to produce. You're applying that to probably AI. So AI access gets cheaper. So then that will then proliferate across everything and everyone can then use AI. So then you're betting that on these probably smaller market cap companies, now that they have access to cheap AI, are going to just explode.
You've got it. There's a lot of drama going on in these price declines. So AI, for example, based on our work, when you combine hardware and software, for every cumulative doubling, and this unit, and this is the most important thing we have to find, what is the unit dynamic we're measuring here? And it is amount of data per unit of
nature. Those are the people who are trying to get.
You heard that, folks. She's trying to tell everybody that, you know, and where was Cathie Wood's? Where was her little NVIDIA pitch before? You notice only now after NVIDIA is the hottest shit in the world, she comes out. Oh, we were all over NVIDIA before. We were in a big way. No, you weren't. No, you weren't. You're a liar. Stop lying, Cathie. Stop lying. Okay? Take a look. She was in NVIDIA, huh? Okay. Here's NVIDIA. Look at that. You see that, folks? Take a look. Her chart performance doesn't even exist. Now, I say, well, this is all NVIDIA. It's folks, you understand the majority of Cathie Wood's holdings have been Tesla? If Cathie Wood was all over NVIDIA and knew, then she should have had a huge position in NVIDIA. Take a look. Okay? Take a look. You see that? You got it? She's full of shit. She's a fucking liar. Fucking liar is what she is. It won't, the percentage won't come out for some reason. I don't know why. Let's see if it does it here. Screwed up chart. Oh, there we go. So, okay, yeah. So, you're talking about, you see that? Take a look, folks. Let's get the date here. I think that's close to the inception of her fund. Okay, so you see that? I guess it's 81% her fund returned, okay, since the inception. NVIDIA has returned 20,400%. Remember, you heard what she said. Folks, why is nobody else like going over this stuff? Like, no one else. It's not difficult. It's pretty fucking simple. That tells you of the dumbass stooges on YouTube. They want to pump stock. You understand?
It's just public endorsement almost, that they're trying to promote themselves by critically talking about another person. But when it's private, you know it's sincere and they're not doing it for the wrong reasons. It's a great point.
And altogether, ARK has 3.5 million followers, I think, on X. And so when people are, hating on us or whatever, maybe that's exaggerating a bit, but not really.
No, it's not.
Then they know they're going to get a lot of publicity because of the number of.
Folks, it's not hating on someone. It's being critical of someone who is being put out there in the limelight, causing people to lose a lot of money. And she's the only one that gets to pitch her bullshit. And no one else is allowed to confront her on the same platforms that she is disseminating her garbage. That's the problem. That's not hate. You understand? But you see, when people are exposed, they call it hate. Oh, you're a hater. It's kind of a mind control tactic. No, I'm just calling you out. Not hating you, calling you out for what you are. You're a con artist, Cathie. You're a disaster. You're a stock manipulator.
Followers. So we're a target. And so and we understand that. It comes with the territory, but we would never meet, if we were doing things the traditional financial way, we wouldn't meet the people we're meeting, and they wouldn't have as vital an interest that we're getting our research right. So just to give you a sense of that, what are we doing from the top down? We are sizing the markets these innovators are going after. They're not doing that, but they're vitally interested in it. How big is big? And so they want us to get this top-down work right, because they also want to know, okay, how big is this opportunity I am chasing here? So it's a win-win.
Do you think
Tell us, Cathie, who are the people that want to meet with you? I want to know. Give me some names of someone credible. She's probably going to talk about Elon Musk. Well, guess what? Guess who who Tesla's number one pumper is? Cathie Wood, right? Elon Musk is ready to get on his knees for anybody who's going to pump his bullshit.
Maybe that works to your advantage to be a little bit more controversial in a sense of picking investments that maybe people are more emotional about. Like Tesla was a great example of that.
Bitcoin has been a great example.
Too. Yeah.
I mean, Roku's a great example. Coinbase, great example. Jim Chanos, I think he's
losing popularity.
Well, and part of it's pricing. And what has brought that on? So there are two reasons we think prices are going to fall. Yeah. One, during COVID and the supply shock, it was almost...
Wait a second.
Bean prices are going up a lot. So coffee prices...
He owns a little coffee company.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's, believe me, for Starbucks doesn't do this, but we're just talking a different language. That's all.
What do you think the biggest risks are for the stock market these days in 2024, 2025?
I really think we're going into a deflationary period, and most people have never seen that.
Here we go. So deflation, that's what you said in the beginning of this, the highlights. We're going into a deflationary period. Folks, do you remember that video I showed you, or actually the image I showed you earlier, where I commented on her video? You might want to watch this video, and I'm sure some other ones she did. February 5th, 2022. She's talking about deflation. Do you all remember what was going on back in February 2022? We already had excessive inflation. We had a good amount of inflation in late 2021. She's talking in this video here about deflation. She's pitching the same bullshit like a typical broken clock con artist. Deflation. And her whole argument back then was, you all remember, technology, such disruptive innovation is going to cause prices to go down. Okay? Complete fucking stupidity. What happened to prices, folks? You all know what happened to prices. They didn't go down. They soared. I believe we got CPI as high as 9% by the middle of 2022. Something like that. So she's talking about deflation again. So you understand. Broken clock. So let's hear what she's going to say about why we're going to have deflation.
In fact, it really hasn't existed since the Great Depression. And any company that is...
So you hear that? So we're going to see deflation like the Great Depression. We're not just talking about a brief period. It's a protracted period of deflation, right? Where prices come down, right? Kind of like what Japan has faced until recently for a very, very long time.
Highly leveraged. and doesn't understand that prices are going to be falling for two reasons. I'll get into that in a moment. Any company that does not understand that and has a lot of debt is going to be in trouble, because falling prices means it will be very hard to service that debt. Certainly the way they expect it to. So why deflation? And this is really controversial. I came out of an economics background, and so I do.
So basically, she came out of an economics background, so she's credible. No, you're not. You're wrong. You don't know. I never had an economics class, and I probably know a lot more real economics than you do, Cathie. All I know is my results. They speak for themselves.
Do something called In the Know every month on Employment Friday, and we've been building this deflation theme for a while now, and now it's happening. So you're seeing.
Well, that's the first honest thing she said right there. We've been building this deflation thing for a while, and now it's happening. You hear that? Right? She just told you she's been talking about deflation for years. She ignored inflation when it was obvious, when every fucking clueless person on the street, right? And I mean, not on Wall Street. Every homeless person on the street, let's say, knew inflation was there. Everybody could see it. She was saying deflation, right? She's been saying it for years, and now she's saying it's here. Let's hear that again.
Going to be in trouble, because falling prices means it will be very hard to service that debt. Certainly the way they expect it to. So why deflation? And this is really controversial. I came out of an economics background, and so I do something called In the Know every month on Employment Friday, and we've been building this deflation theme for a while now, and now it's happening. So you're seeing McDonald's.
It's happening. So is it happening? Folks, remember, she comes from an economics background, right? Are we seeing deflation? Now it's happening, she said. Is it happening? Cathie, I think the word that you're looking for, remember, I'm not trained in economics like you. I spent my time, studying things that kind of help my mind flourish and expand my intellectual capacity. Things like chemistry and physics. So economics is like rinky-dink bullshit. Easy pickings. But Cathie, it's a simple term. It's called disinflation, not deflation. Disinflation, a reduction in inflation. We're seeing that, Cathie, because guess what? Interest rates are high. That's why interest rates were raised, to lower inflation, to cause disinflation, not deflation. Deflation is a level of inflation it's below normal inflation. Understand, we don't have deflation, Cathie. You're wrong. You're clueless.
Cutting prices. You're seeing even Starbucks cutting prices.
Where are they cutting prices? Because I go to the same Starbucks every single day. 1 cup of venti coffee, $3.52 on the dot. It hasn't changed.
So even these clowns, realize that, Cathie, prices are increasing. What are you talking about? Let's listen to her. A good con artist always has a getaway card, right? She's got a escape card. She's got it right in her hip pocket. Let's hear what it is.
You aren't buying one of their package deals that they are now cutting prices on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Package deal? What are you talking about? Folks, you're hearing this right now. This was released a day ago. You see that? Let's get the date here. August 4th. See that? She's telling you that prices are going down. Prices are going down. I don't know what fucking planet she lives on. In fact, it's funny because she's talking about Starbucks. Well, they have package deals. It's funny because in Starbucks, one of their, I think it was maybe their most recent earnings call, they actually talked about how they don't want to get in a price war in China because they're struggling in China now because, Luckin Coffee and others, they have all these, they're cutting prices, and Starbucks says, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. We're going to offer more promotions and things like that, but we're not going to cut our prices. And she's telling you now, Starbucks is a great example. All package deals. Oh, let me buy 8 coffees. Can I get 8 coffee package deal? Cathie, come on.
So it's, believe me, for Starbucks doesn't do this, but they've broken down and they're doing this now for some kind of breakfast special, I think, for not much more than you're paying for your.
My understanding with that, though, is that Starbucks is somewhat.
We don't care about Starbucks. We care about consumer prices. Consumer prices. Companies are not cutting prices, folks. They're not. Okay, that's the last thing they want to do is cut prices. In fact, back after the financial crisis of the recession, 2008 and 9, companies actually, to avoid cutting costs, or I'm sorry, cutting prices, what they did is they actually, many of them, depending upon the company, they actually reduced the containers. Some of you remember that. That was when, for instance, Coke and Pepsi went from, they actually reduced the amount of cans that they offered in boxes. You had the smaller potato chip packages, you had smaller cans, so on and so forth. Companies don't want to lower prices because they know that consumers, once they want to raise prices, consumers will be more resistant to pay those higher prices. So what they'll do is, if they want to reduce costs, they will actually reduce the quantity. This is known. That doesn't matter. The bottom line is that prices are not going down. She doesn't know what the fuck she's talking about. Remember, this is part of her theme. We're experiencing deflation, which is not deflation. If anything, it's disinflation. But I don't see it. And you probably don't either. But let's go ahead and listen to her hocus pocus bullshit. See where it
losing popularity among some younger people. Also because there's so many other places out there and the prices are so high.
Because Starbucks is expensive?
It is.
Well, yeah, I mean, how hard is it to make a coffee?
You could make it at home for 20 cents.
Extractions from a bean and water.
Well, bean prices are going up a lot, so coffee prices.
He owns a little coffee company, so he's got to defend the bean prices.
Yeah, well, I just use Keurig and put a little pod in there. And
even Keurigs are expensive.
Yeah.
$1.20 each.
But much less expensive.
Right.
My old habit was Starbucks, right?
Yeah.
So.
But my point with Starbucks, I think they're kind of losing popularity.
Well, and part of it's pricing. And what has brought that on? So there are two reasons we think prices are going to fall.
Yeah.
One, during COVID and the supply shock, it was almost permission for companies who would never raise prices by 20% to raise them by 20%, which they did, including cereal companies, and a lot of necessities. Real wages did not go up that much. Maybe they did for some union workers that got 10% per year for 4 years. But that's not many people. In fact, probably that's certainly less than 10% of the people in the United States, probably less than 5%. The rest, their real wages didn't go up. Their wages didn't go up to compensate for that. And so now we're starting to see the saving rate, which hit 32% when there was all this fiscal stimulus, just giving checks for not working. Now those are gone. So the saving rate has gone from 32% at the peak to 3.9%, very low by historical standards. And we're also getting to a point where, if you look at various surveys, people who are making more than $100,000 a year, so roughly 2 times the national average, the percentage worried about losing their jobs is increasing dramatically. And I think that's because of all the tech layoffs, a lot of tech layoffs, if you've noticed. And that's because they're harnessing artificial intelligence as their margins are under pressure. So we're seeing prices go down and hitting profit margins. What happens? What is the easiest?
You hear that, by the way? All the tech companies, they're already harvesting artificial intelligence. That's why there's all the tech layoffs. What are you talking about? There's very little benefits of artificial intelligence right now. Very little. She doesn't know what she's talking about. But anyway,
to sell.
She's trying to explain her reasoning for deflation. We're seeing lowering prices. This is what she's talking about.
Salvage those margins. The easiest way is to, unfortunately, lay people off if you have technology to take over what they're doing, because labor is the biggest cost in an organization for the most part. So I do think the unemployment rate is going to go up, and cyclically prices are coming down. We're hearing about.
Wow, you hear what she's doing now, folks? She's twisting her narrative. So unemployment rate's going up because of high interest rates. Has nothing to do with what she's saying. She's saying, well, it's going up because people are losing their jobs to AI-generated technology. I mean, come on, Cathie, open your fucking eyes. What are you talking about?
Every day there are prices coming down. So Walmart's cutting prices on either 5,000 or 7,000 different items. Target, of course, and Costco as well. Best Buy. So we're seeing this now.
This is not true, folks. This is all done for promotion. They're cutting prices on certain items to get people in the door. Okay, that's just marketing. That's merchandising strategy. But overall, prices are not going down. Okay, they're not going down. And even if they do go down eventually, which they should, it's versus this peak that we got to. She's talking about an overall price decline so that it results in deflation, a deflationary period. Remember, she said we're going to see a period like we haven't seen since the Great Depression. That's what she says we're already starting to hit. Why? She's saying because of technology. Once again, she's sticking with this stupid-ass narrative. It's completely false.
More broadly, food broadly, food away from home, definitely. That's a bad reason. That's cyclical pressures.
Maybe I should just go ahead and post this this chart here, NVIDIA versus ARC here while you're listening to her, or we just post the ARC chart in itself, and you can listen to her, and that can tell you right now, whether you believe this bullshit or not.
Good reason is innovation. I just gave you some statistics on how quickly costs are falling. If those companies are smart, they're turning those cost declines into price declines so that the units can continue to proliferate and drive costs down. Economies of scale, efficiencies. And so that's a good reason. Why? Because when you cut prices in these new technologies, units boom. Okay, that's good for the economy. But then there's another bad thing that happens. If electric vehicle prices are going to continue falling, let's say if Elon's right, we will get a $20,000 to $25,000 car in the...
So once again, she's full of shit with her little narrative of innovation is lower. Folks, let me explain something to you. Innovation is a gradual thing. You don't have all this massive innovation overnight and all of a sudden people find themselves out of work. It doesn't work that way. There's a gradual transition. Okay? There's a gradual transition. And, Cathie's been wrong for many years, and she's going to continue to be wrong. What you should do is wake the fuck up. I gave her a nice warning. She didn't want to listen to me. Okay? She didn't want to listen. And I guess you don't need to listen. She's got people conned. She's got billions of dollars managing. She's conning people. She's making the money. When she loses money on the fund, people lose money. She doesn't lose money. She's getting paid her fund management fee. Okay? And the problem is that her risky funds are, she's marketing them as, basically she should be running a hedge fund. Okay, she should be running a hedge fund. Her investment style is better for hedge funds. Why? Because, and she'll say, well, this is a great way, you're getting lower fees. You're not getting a 20% carry. You don't have to pay a 20% carry. The problem is, folks, is as you can see, take a look at her fund. And at some point, maybe she'll have another pop. But guess what? If you buy and hold this thing, I can guarantee you, you're not going to outperform the index long term. I'll guarantee it. We already have a period of 10 years now, and I've already shown you how it's underperformed. The appropriate benchmark is a NASDAQ. The NASDAQ has performed twice as good, twice as much as her fund. And guess what? You can get a NASDAQ ETF with low fees. She's charging huge fees to underperform. Huge fees to underperform. That sounds like a lot of these fund managers. It sounds like another con man that I exposed in another video, Jeffrey Gundlach. You might want to take a look at that video. See what we got here. Yeah, you might want to take a look at that video. Another one, Peter Schiff. I exposed his funds as well. Right? Don't pay anybody to underperform. Best off, where's Gundlach? You're best off just buying the index, folks. I'm telling you right now, if you don't have a competitive advantage, forget it. You ain't going to get one on YouTube. These guys on YouTube, as bad as CNBC is, guys on YouTube are a billion times worse. They're a bunch of fucking amateur clowns. Okay. Where's Gundlach here? Pretty sure I have him on this channel. Is he on my other one? I don't know. Oh well. You can look it up on your own later.
Next year or so, what's going to happen to the prices of gas-powered vehicles, right? They can't cut prices. That's a mature technology. The cumulative doubling is not going to happen for 100 years.
Well, why are EV prices falling so much lately?
It depends. Are you looking, including
used cars? Like
the
used market.
That's because Hertz.
What? Wait a second. No, I'm not going to even get into that because of Hertz. Yeah, okay, whatever.
Continue to put pressure on the used car market, which went crazy.
What's one of your most provocative opinions when it comes to investing?
Well, this should not be provocative, but we look out, our investment time horizon is 5 years in the public equity markets, and we are willing to buy companies that are losing money now, especially in the early stage technology.
Did you hear that, folks? 5 years. I heard that a few years ago, I think, when Cathie Wood's funds collapsed. She's like, oh, 5 years, 5 years. So you see what she keeps saying, give us 5 years next year, give us 5 years next year, give us 5 years next year, give us 5 years. See that?
Like multiomics. Most people right now have a 1 quarter time horizon when it comes to that kind of company. We have a 5 year investment time horizon. And let me just give you a sense. Many people say, oh, well, you'll just buy anything no matter what the valuation, as long as it's in, the sweet spot of innovation. That's not true. What we do is we make the assumption that, the valuation metric we choose is enterprise value. So that's not just equity market cap.
Okay. Whatever you're using is not working. You're clueless, Cathie. Just please.
Hurdle rate of return of 15% at a compound annual rate. So that's 15% on average per year. Now, we have not done that because the interest rate shock it was so severe. We'd never seen anything like that in history. Never.
Mm-hmm.
So she's going through explaining, how she picks the stocks and telling you, well, it didn't work out because of interest rates. Guess what, folks? She's telling it never happened before. This is a lady, once again. This is a lady who, and you can see here, she had proper warning, and she's sitting here telling everybody that we're in deflation. She didn't realize interest rates were going to be raised significantly. Remember this video here, February 5th, 2022. Remember, the Fed was already on track to start lowering interest rates by this time. And they lowered rates in March, and they continued, right? Lowered. They raised interest rates in March, and that was the first rate hike, and it continued. Cathie was saying we were in deflation. We were obviously in inflation. She's telling us now, well, we didn't get our performance because we had this big interest rate increase. My question is, how did she not see that? Cathie, how did you not see that coming? Why didn't you adjust for that? You should have seen it coming. Everybody saw it coming. Why didn't you adjust for that? You understand what I'm saying, folks? She's got an excuse for everything.
But if you look at to date, from inception to date, we are in the double digits, nearly 11%. But our goal is 15% minimum over.
Wow. Wait a second.
Our multiples of that.
Here's an interesting question. Do you think the stock market should be open 24/7?
Well, we're dealing with the crypto asset world being open 24/7, and so we have conversations at night around crypto assets. So it certainly extends the workday. I think it would develop into a cadence. There's a time during the evening that most of the activity will around NVIDIA. That when we did this, if we think a stock has become around NVIDIA operating margins by 0.3% or 30 basis points, and they have told us that they're sacrificing short-term profitability to invest more in R&D in an area that we think is really important, and it's down 30% for that reason, we're going to be buying that stock. So we are what's called a liquidity provider. When you get those massive sell-offs, not every stock, but if it's a stock in our universe and we think this is ridiculous, they have no idea how big this story is going to be over the next 5 years, we'll be buying it. The other side of that, and we got a lot of publicity around NVIDIA that when we did this, if we think a stock...
Yeah, the publicity was they were laughing at her because she fucking sold it.
Has become so momentum driven, just momentum for momentum's sake. And there were reasons. NVIDIA just shocked people with their revenue and earnings growth. So we still own it in some portfolios. But, we pull away from that kind of a stock because we figure, okay, if NVIDIA is going to deserve this valuation, if it's going to deserve $3 trillion in market cap.
Folks, let me tell you something right now, by the way. NVIDIA, certainly, when the dumb money rushed in, not good at the situation, but NVIDIA actually was not aggressively valued, especially when she sold it. Not at all. She's making excuses why she missed out on a huge surge in NVIDIA. Remember, this is the lady who told you that they saw NVIDIA as the leader in AI back in 2014, and they were invested heavy. Remember that? And now she's telling you, well, we got out of NVIDIA because we thought it was overvalued. It was a hype stock. They got out of it early on. Think about that. Here's a woman who's telling you NVIDIA is going to be, we saw NVIDIA as the leader in AI a long time ago. Well, why don't you just buy it and hold it? It's too high. Okay, you trim some down, wait till it sells off, buy some more, get back in. Did she do that? No. You understand what I'm saying? This lady is an absolute fucking fraud. She's a pathological con artist and fraud. Not just a part-time con artist. She's a professional con artist. She's a fraudster. I hope you all are catching all this. It's very easy. I can do this with all of her videos. I'm just going through this for the first time. It's very simple. It's not difficult. I mean, why do you think? I mean, I can go through these YouTube fake investment. I mean, Jesus Christ, I'll be wasting all my time just going through one of these guys. You can see how I can easily chop her bullshit up. Can you imagine these fucking amateurs on YouTube? Jesus fucking Christ, are you kidding me? Hopefully you all see what's going on. She's full of shit, completely full of shit. She's a liar and a fraud, absolute fraud. And the media has helped her pitch her garbage.
Which is nearly 15% of the US economy. But if it's going to deserve that, then it must be serving other companies that are going to benefit enormously from it. And so far, you're not seeing huge upside surprises for that reason.
What do you say to investors who believe that's too risky and say it's safer to invest in a broad market ETF passively, like something that maybe, tracks the S&P?
I will say it'll be less volatile. And because the pendulum has been swinging towards indexation and the broad-based indices in particular, this has been a winning strategy over the years. If we're right, and these 5 innovation platforms involving 14 different technologies are going to transform the world as we know it, the S&P 500 is the world as we know it. Now, it will catch up slowly over time, but as we learn with Tesla, it took until nearly $500 billion in market cap for Tesla to have a 4-quarter moving average of profitability with the last quarter profitable. That's the S&P's rule. A lot of our companies will probably be, now they're, 1 to 2 billion or 5 to 10 billion, and they'll be similarly 200 to 500 billion.
Yeah, they're going to go up 100-fold. Yeah, okay. Let's take a look at Cathie Wood's. I don't have them all here. I remember I posted this site a couple of years ago. Let's take a look. Now, Alphabet's a recent, I think it's fairly recent, maybe a year ago or so, maybe 2 years, but it's not a big holding. And this is not, but just take a look at these companies here. Okay, take a look. And you'll see Tesla is in all of her funds. And by the way, if you take a look at her funds, which I could do that at some other point in time, many of the stocks that she has in her funds, they don't belong there, but she's going to claim that they do belong there. She just wants to put them there because she's hoping that they're going to boost her performance. DocuSign is a funny one. I mean, this thing was trading for, I can't remember, maybe $150 or even more. The story on this. And I had this person who asked me about it. Gosh, this was probably 3 years ago or so. And they were asking me about it, here, and here, this. And I said, look, it's garbage. It's going to collapse. I said, I told the person specifically, I said, don't ask me about it again. I said, ask me about it. Ask me about it specifically. I said, ask me about it when it goes under $50. Okay? I told them that when it's up here. Ask me about it when it goes under $50. I didn't want to hear about it because I knew it's going to crash. And guess what? You know why I said under $50? Because the point is that, okay, you want to hear about it now because it's high flying, sounds great. I'd already told them why the company's kind of bullshit. There's, they're thinking that there's no competition. There's plenty of competition. And And the reason why I said under 50 bucks is because I thought it was going to go under 50 bucks. And I knew that he wasn't going to be interested then. He's only interested now at 250, at 300. You understand? And I fucking nailed it. Take a look. I mean, I had this actually in recording. I can actually post it if I can find it. See that? Take a look. Okay? And guess what? That person who's still in our webinars, he no longer asks me about it. Okay? He no longer asks me about it. Just a little story there. These are the companies that are going to benefit from AI, right? NVIDIA and Microsoft, and those are Google. They're not going to do well as much. You're going to see a lot more of these companies are going to. It's what she's basically saying. What a fucking idiot.
And that's okay. The S&P will catch up. But it will also have some losers. Those companies that are going to be disintermediated, disrupted, destroyed. And, so it'll have that weight. Nonetheless.
Yeah, some losers, huh? That's right. She's telling you her fund's going to have some losers. Well, this is what her fund looks like without Tesla carrying it. And, Tesla can go a lot lower, by the way. Well, certainly. It can go a lot lower. Tesla's obviously a highly manipulated stock. There's no doubt about that. But still, it's still fairly high where it was. Can you imagine what her fund would be like without Tesla? Right? So you can take a look at her holdings here. Another, I told you the story about Zoom video. Complete obvious garbage. It's a fucking video platform. There's so much competition. Cisco, WebEx, they've had theirs out for a long time. There's many platforms. What's special about Zoom? Right? Nothing. It's a fucking it's a fucking video conferencing. What is, but everybody thought it was great at $500. Give me a fucking break. And even now, it's probably a little excessively valued. I haven't looked at it, but I would say anyway, Unity software. Yeah, Unity software. I mean, should we take a look at the charts? Is that what we should do? Take a pause here. Refresh your memory. Let's do that actually, because you have all these kids on YouTube and all these fake investment gurus. You're hearing about these names because they're getting them from Cathie Wood. That's where they got them from. They were pumping all this shit. Cathie Wood. Let's not forget. She also bought Peloton. That's right. You will know that. She bought Peloton. Let's take a look here. So here's Tesla. Let's take a look at a 5-year. I mean, see, look, Tesla's still kind of holding Cathie Wood's funds up. If Tesla falls by 50%, which it's possible, I'm not going to predict that, but it's certainly possible, then you're talking about her funds are completely fucked, because Tesla's still holding up her funds, and even though her funds have collapsed for the most part. Let's take a look here. Let's go ahead and run through this. And once again, this is not all of her funds, or I'm sorry, her holdings, but I think it's a good amount of them. Another garbage stock, Teldocs. Another one people were asking me about a few years ago. I said it's fucking garbage. Okay, I know about telemedicine as well as, if not better than anybody on the street, because I worked in the industry long before you heard the damn name. Wrote a book primarily on telemedicine 16 years ago. Okay, I know about it. If I hadn't heard about Teledocs, it's fucking garbage. Never heard about it until you're hearing the Cathie Wood shills. And take a look. Complete horseshit. Folks, this is the problem with many amateur investors that don't know jack shit. They don't know their head from their ass. Understand something. If you haven't worked in the industry and achieved a good level of success, in other words, if you worked as a fucking stockbroker, so what? You're a salesman. You could be a fucking clown. If you haven't worked professionally in the industry for a long time, okay, you're not going to know what's going on. And the younger you are, the more clueless you're going to be. You're going to hear about some technology. The typical thing is what people do is they'll hear about some technology. Oh, wow, it sounds amazing. And they have no fucking idea that there's a lot of competition. Great example, a story I've told many times, is the 3D printing industry. Well, I think that had a little bubble a few years ago, but actually the first bubble was several years ago, maybe 10 years ago, maybe 8 years ago. And somebody emailed us about that. Oh, have you heard about 3D printing? It's going to be the next great thing. I hadn't heard anything about it. That tells me right there. If I haven't heard about it and I have some fucking knucklehead emailing us about it, he's being pumped. And so, guess what? I thought to myself, so this guy thinks it's going to be the next great thing. And I said, yeah, well, you know what? They had 3D printers back when I was in college. A long time ago. Decades ago. It's nothing fucking new. Okay? It's nothing fucking new. But he thought it was new because he didn't have a clue what was going on. Same thing with teledocs. Oh, wow, video conferencing and telemed. Do they know anything about the licensing requirements? Right? No, they don't know anything about that shit. They don't know anything about HIPAA. No, you can't just be a physician and go through a video conference all over the world. You got to be licensed in that state, first of all. Second of all, there's all kinds of competition out there. Namely, United Health is a huge player. There's many of these big companies. They have all types of this stuff going on. Have a pure player, a small company. That's a tough situation going on. They don't have the resources. They don't have the connections. They don't have the client base. Okay, it's tough. Not to mention the resources for the R&D. So this is what I'm talking about. They hear about this idea and they think it's great. They have no fucking idea what's going on. Okay, and this is the story of teledocs. Remember, this is the Cathie Wood. She still loves the stock. It's a failure. Okay, it's a failure. As I predicted, it would be a penny stock. It's well on its way there. Complete fucking disaster. But remember, Cathie Wood, she knows what's going on. She knows about disruptive innovation, doesn't she? You all understand what a fraud she is? You see that? You think it's going to come back? Well, you could take your chances on it. Tell you what, I'll take my money and I'll go with quality. Okay? I'll go with quality. And by the way, speaking of United Health, that's another stock that was the number 3 stock back in 2009 that I listed as top long-term growth. Stocks for long-term growth, best long-term growth back in 2009. You can take a look at the performance of that stock since 2009 and tell me what happened. Okay? This is 2009. Okay? I had 3 stocks. I made one list of best stocks for long-term growth. I made one list in my entire life back in 2009. 3 stocks on that list. This was number 3, United Health. Okay? Take a look. $20. Nvidia was number 1. Okay? FYI. So, I think I probably know a little bit about investment research and technology. And Cathie Wood is a clueless clown and fraud.
It'll be less volatile than we are. We're a nice hedge to the value traps that are in traditional benchmarks. Those companies that are going to be disrupted by the new world, we're a hedge. We've had some value managers saying, I wouldn't own one stock in your portfolio, but I know my biggest risk is...
That's right. A lot of people saying that. I'm going to go ahead and you can listen to her ramble. I'm going to go ahead and show you more of her stocks.
The value trap.
You can see more of the charts, how they've performed.
In the portfolios I do own. And so, I'll use you as a hedge, 1 to 2% of my equity exposure.
So I've been traveling quite a bit over the last couple of years, from Mexico to Croatia, Thailand, Japan, the Philippines, and I know that language gaps can be quite intimidating and unfortunately prevent people from seeing the world. But guess what, guys? You don't need to worry about that anymore.
Shut up.
L.com.
these fucking pieces of
applications of AI are going to be in healthcare, going to cure disease.
Is there anything
There you
that
go.
you think is misunderstood
Gonna cure
about
disease. She knows it. Cathie Wood knows it. Great applications in healthcare. AI. It's going to cure disease. Disruptive innovation. Cathie Wood. She's in genomics, right? She's got a genomics ETF, right? Why didn't Cathie Wood buy Moderna? I talked about this before. I was recommending Moderna as the only small cap biotech to take a chance on. I think Moderna. Didn't come up with the big list. Moderna. And it was that was in March of 2020. And it was a blockbuster. It was a fucking 10-bagger. Okay? I'm just one guy. Nobody knows me. I'm banned. I'm a nobody. Right? I'm not on TV. But Cathie Wood, the queen of disruptive innovation, she didn't catch Moderna. Remember, Moderna is involved in, as you all know, right, mRNA vaccine, new technology. The first mRNA vaccine we've ever had was this COVID vaccine, right? Why wasn't Cathie Wood all over Moderna? Right? The same reason why she wasn't all over NVIDIA, although she claims she was. It's a fucking lie. Same reason why she wasn't all over NVIDIA, Netflix, many other stocks. She's all over a bunch of largely small cap garbage stocks that she can manipulate. Small market cap, she can go on CNBC and pump them, and they're easy to manipulate. That's what's going on. That's why she also releases her fucking so-called research. She's trying to get people to push up her stocks. It's a fucking scam. In fact, what Cathie Wood is doing, what she's doing, I believe, and I may do a video on this actually, what she is doing is not a lot different than what Andrew Left is being charged of doing. And if you haven't seen this live stream I did, I suggest you look at it, because I actually was the first person to tip off the SEC on Andrew Left back in 2018. I saw what was going on. Andrew Left was doing what all these people in the media do. He gets media exposure. You know, he's got the right name, so his buddies let him on. Of course, he paid Bloomberg. There's no doubt about it. He made the rounds, paid Bloomberg, but not just anybody can pay the mafia. You got to be part of the mafia. They're not gonna let you do it. He paid Bloomberg. They promoted him as some expert. He's a fucking clown. He was a nobody with a nothing but being barred from the securities industry or the stock exchange in Hong Kong. This is a guy who was pumping penny stocks. So who is he? Nobody. But he was promoted as an expert, and he paid Bloomberg to get promoted. Bloomberg promotes him, then he gets on CNBC, and wow. So what's happening? This guy was promoting stocks, manipulating stocks, using the exposure power of the media to do that. And it was so obvious to me because he had no fucking credentials. He was a nobody. At least, okay, if he's a clown like Jeffrey Gundlach, obvious clown, but at least Gundlach, he has funds, okay? Gundlach has funds. There's a reason for him to be there. He's in the game. He's a fucking loser. His performance sucks, but okay. Andrew Left was not even a Wall Street guy. He was a nobody. Didn't run a fund, nothing. He was using that media exposure to get the suckers involved to manipulate his stocks. Cathie Wood is doing the same thing. She's doing the same thing. She's getting people to pump up her stocks. That's why the majority of her stocks are small caps. You understand? And that's why she's so-called, she's transparent. I call it the transparency scam. All these YouTubers, oh, they're so transparent. No, you fucking dipshit. You're a dumbass. They're fooling you. Cathie Wood's transparency scam is a little different. The transparency scam on YouTube it's not real transparency. They're pretending like it is, but it's not. They're fooling your ass. Whether it's Meet Kevin or whomever, Tim Sykes, all these guys. When they say, oh, I'm transparent, you can be guaranteed they're not transparent. They're fucking lying. It's a scam. Cathie Wood's transparency works a little different, her scam. And that is, she wants to show you, oh, here's my trades. Oh, here's our research. We give it away for free. So that her propaganda will spread. Oh, this is great. It's kind of the follower effect. That's what she's doing. She gets on TV, promotes her bullshit, gives her research out to get everybody to pump up her trades. Remember, these are not mega cap stocks that she's promoting in her fund. Most of her stocks are small caps. They're easy to manipulate. It's very easy to manipulate when you have exposure on large networks like she does. That's what Cathie Wood is doing. Okay? Hell, Cathie, at least pick some small caps that are worth a damn instead of this garbage that you're collecting.
Elon, whether that's just from, viewing him online or from private conversations that you've had with him that you think should be known by people?
Everybody's well aware of his very high standards. So, but we did a podcast with Elon in March of 2019, and this is where I learned what I'm about to tell you. He is a very good and honorable person.
He's good. Yeah, Elon Musk is a con artist and a fraud. Fact, write it down. He's a con man, he's a fraud, he's a manipulator. He wants to tell you and pretend like he's a good guy. This is the same guy who basically extorted shareholders of Tesla saying, look, I'm going to take my AI stuff and move elsewhere and go to another company if you don't give me my $52 billion. What a fuck. And he said, I don't care about money. Oh, sure you don't, Elon. This is the guy who bought Twitter basically for free. He got Twitter for free. What did he pay? Like $55 billion, $58 billion. Why do I say free? That money that he paid for Twitter was based upon manipulating stock proceeds. Remember that? This is when Elon Musk was manipulating the price of Tesla based upon all his his full self-driving lies. Okay? That's where he got that money. Complete fucking fraud. And he bought Twitter. And of course, you're not allowed to buy any type of media company. No one's going to let you buy it. They're not going to give it to you unless you're part of one of them. Take a look at Elon Musk's background, by the way, namely his mother's side. That's all I'll say. Elon Musk bought Twitter to manipulate people and to manipulate his fucking agenda. Okay? And he's using it to manipulate Tesla stock price, so on and so forth. So Elon Musk is not a good guy. He pretends like he's a good guy. Is he an honest guy? Certainly not. This is a man who went along with the man-made climate change narrative, which, by the way, FYI, I'm going to be doing an interview with the World Authority next week. I don't know when I'll publish it, with a very esteemed professor, I'm not going to say the name, who knows that climate, he knows the story on man-made climate change. It's exaggerated, so on and so forth, but I'm not going to get into that. But Elon Musk, he ran with that narrative. Why? Because he saw the tax money. He saw the tax dollars, and he knew he could make a lot of money doing that. Is he an honest guy? Elon Musk knows the story on climate change, right? But he pushed this narrative to make a lot of money. Is that honest? You tell me. Somebody please tell me how electric vehicles is helping the so-called climate situation. Can anyone tell me how that's happening? Last I checked, electric vehicles were not being powered by solar fucking panels. Electric vehicle battery power comes from the emission, the combustion of carbon, fossil fuels, right? The emission of carbon dioxide. Someone please tell me how electric vehicles are helping reduce carbon emissions. They're not. So you tell me there's honesty involved there. That whole thing's a complete fucking scam. People are suckered into paying. And of course, people, oh, I'm going to save the environment. I'm going to buy an electric vehicle. Oh, how are you helping the environment? Where do you think that electricity comes from in your battery? It comes from a power station. Where do you think that power station is getting its electricity from? The fucking sun? No. From the combustion of fossil fuels. Why don't you hear this? I've been talking about this for many, many years. It's a complete fucking racket. If you're an American, your tax dollars are going to fund Elon Musk's fucking scam. And that's what it is. Okay. So Cathie wants to tell you he's a great guy, he's an honest guy. Why? Her number one holding is Tesla. Right? She wants to kiss his ass. Because of that. She can get in good graces with him.
He is trying to do right by the world.
Yeah. Sure.
And, you know, I don't think people understand that. I don't think people understand what a good, honorable, decent person he is.
Oh, he's good. This is a man who, let me refresh your memory, what a good, honorable, decent person he is. This is a man who back around 2018, I think it was maybe, during this in Thailand, northern Thailand, you may have heard the story. There were these kids that were trapped in a cave. These high school students, I think it was, soccer team. I don't know, 22 kids. It was a big rainfall, and so the water was coming up, and they were forced into a cave, and they couldn't get out. They were going to die. Made national news. And so, of course, Elon Musk sees an opportunity. He's like Peter Schiff. Elon Musk is very similar to Donald Trump, by the way. Very similar, the behavior and the ego and the whole, you know, anytime an opportunity for publicity, Elon Musk is there. Elon Musk flies over there. He's going to save the day with his technology. Show you how great he is. You know, the guy who basically has done nothing. He calls himself an engineer, has no engineering degree. He steals the ideas from his staff that he pays, which most of these ideas are fucking stupid. Won't ever happen. Okay. And so he flies over there, and remember the whole mini sub? He's gonna make a small submarine to save the kids. Remember that? And so there was a diver, a professional diver. I think he was retired or so, a British guy, who happened to be living in Thailand. I guess he lived there. His family, his wife, whatever. He came there to try and help to save the kids as a diver, right? And he saw the submarine thing, and the guy was basically criticizing. He's like, basically, this is a gimmick. You know, it's not going to work. It's a joke. He's just here to kind of promote himself. Elon Musk heard that, and he lost it. You know what happens when you criticize Elon Musk, right? Can't do it. He'll come after you. He'll abuse you. He'll talk shit about you, right? That's what he does. He flies off the handle. So what does he do? He calls the guy a pedo guy. He calls him basically a pedophile. Okay? You see that? He couldn't handle the criticism, and the diver was right, okay? The divers actually ended up saving these kids, and I think one of the divers actually died in the process. Okay? That diver nailed it. He nailed exactly the situation with Elon Musk, and Elon didn't like that because Elon was there just to promote himself because he knew that would help him, his whole brand, this whole illusion, how he's such a great, brilliant, genius guy, and all this nonsense. This is the good guy that Elon Musk is. He doesn't give a shit about these kids. All he cares about is his ego and making money. Elon Musk, a good guy? You think Cathie Wood's a good lady because she sounds nice, has a nice demeanor? Folks, the people to be afraid of, the biggest con men and con women, are the ones that sound nice and appealing and are likable. Those are the dangerous people out there. Those are the fakes. Okay? So I just want to say that about Elon Musk.
Sure, on Twitter, he says some outrageous things, and like, you know, I don't know what spurs him in any given moment, and maybe venting or something. So I don't look at what he tweets unless it's about the companies and the technology. Then I'm all over it. And so are our analysts. But I know from speaking with him that he is a very good person. The other thing is, many people think he's so headstrong that it's his way or the highway. You hear that a lot coming out of his companies. But what he said to us back then, and I've heard him say this in other venues as well, is the most important thing that we could do, our analyst team, and what I could do is, if we vehemently disagree with him on something, to call him on it. And we don't vehemently disagree. I know I didn't call him on it. I just remember saying something. It was minor, but he took it in, and I could tell modified at least what he said about it. So
that's good to know. That's kind of what's also been mirrored by other people that we've spoken to that have also spoken to Elon. And I always thought that's really good to know, because if he was like secretly a supervillain, I think with all of that data access.
Yes. In fact, quite the opposite. He's the first person to warn that AI could be used for nefarious purposes.
He has said that, yes.
And let's watch.
Okay, there you go. I'm glad she brought that up. Folks, I hope you all caught this when it happened. She's saying he's the first person to warn that AI could be used for nefarious situations, right? Folks, Elon Musk is conning people. He wants to pretend like he's the good guy so that he gains your trust. AI can be bad. I'm going to make sure and use it for good. Didn't Google do that? Remember? What was Google saying many years ago, right? Their little motto was something, I forgot what it was, but they wanted you to trust them and they were going to do good, right? This is Elon Musk. This is his MO. He'll come out and something. Oh well, it can be bad. It can really be bad. Wow, Elon, you're in the AI and you're saying it can be bad. I want to trust you because you're aware of the bad and you're going to make sure. Now, Elon Musk, you don't trust this guy. You don't ever trust a money worshiper, folks. Okay? Ever. I don't trust the guy. Elon cares about Elon. There's no doubt about that. And you can see, just look at how he treats people. Okay, this guy, he may not be the worst of the gang, but he's not a good person. He wants to pretend like he is. And I won't even get into the fact how he allowed Alex Jones back on Twitter. He's allowing Alex Jones now, complete criminally insane sociopath, piece of trash, fraudster, serial fraudster, who is responsible for a lot of issues, he's actually a domestic terrorist, in my opinion. He's allowing Alex Jones to go and peddle his penis potions and all his nutritional bullshit scams, along with his conspiracy theories, on Twitter. Elon Musk is empowering, he's facilitating the operations of a complete piece of trash, fraudster, con man, Alex Jones. Yeah, Elon Musk is a good guy. Sure he is.
Out. So the more he knows about it, and you never know what he's doing to protect humanity against ourselves.
Do you think there's that danger with AI? Like, you hear Elon Musk saying it's going to take over the world, it's going to be destructive, it could be a bad thing. Do you believe in that?
All technologies can be used for nefarious.
I'm gonna close this out.
Just find the right mentors and then go for it.
Yeah. This one I'm just personally curious about. How do you deal with the volatility of the market and seeing such large swings? Because I'd imagine for you, it's just like in a single day, it could be up or down, $100 million. Do you just become desensitized to it at a certain point?
Well, I'm sensitized to it from this point of view. I think about our clients, and I think it's critically important for us to educate our clients. We're not going to be your entire portfolio. And some people in 2020, we were their entire portfolios. And, we were trying to say, no. Now we have papers, we're writing papers. And so we should be a small allocation and understand this is going to be a very volatile part of your portfolio. We're the closest to a venture capital fund in the public markets. We've always said that. And
so now that the reality is hit with her performance, only now, she wasn't saying this before. Now, take a look. Get back to ARK here. Only now is she telling you it should be a small portion of your portfolio, very volatile, right? Let me ask you a question. How many people out there do you think know this and even understand it once she explains it? They don't fucking know this. Something I talked about recently, and that is the benefit of going through a financial advisor. If you go through a financial advisor who's competent, and you say, hey, I want to buy Cathie Wood's ARK Innovation ETF. That financial advisor is probably going to have a good talk with you and say, hey, you know what? This is really risky, so on and so forth. How many people went through a financial advisor? Very few. You had a lot of kids. This is who Cathie Wood been pumped up through. A lot of kids, right? A lot of fucking kids, a lot of naive fucking kids. And they put all her money in her fund. They know nothing about investing, know nothing about anything. Folks, like I said, 99.99% of you, if you're on YouTube, buy the S&P and forget it. Okay? In fact, stay away from all financial information. Think about the number of hours that you're going to spend in your life, maybe 30,000 hours, 40,000 hours. How many years of your life, do the calculation, are you going to waste consuming useless shit content on YouTube, on social media, CNBC, so on and so forth, other websites, trying to see what's going on in the market, trying to get an edge, trying to research, doing all this nonsense? You're going to miss all this time you could be using, get another job, enjoy with your family, get educated, re-educated, whatever. Buy the S&P, save yourself some extra time, and maximize your investment returns. Okay? I'm telling you right now. Guaranteed. But of course, people don't want to listen to that. It's the broke people that are the dumb people. The broke people who make the dumb decisions. Just remember that. Okay?
Some people have understood that and other people have not understood that. So closest thing to a venture capital fund, we have a 5-year investment time.
I mean, the closest thing to it, how many people understand what a venture capital fund is? Nobody knows. Unless you're in the industry, you don't fucking know. Okay? You don't know. In fact, I was talking about earlier how her fund is kind of like a venture capital fund in terms of the risk. It's crazy. But the reward's not there. It's absolutely not there. And of course, apparently she started some type of a private equity fund or venture capital fund whereby the fees are so fucking high and you can't even get out of the fund. You essentially cannot get out of the fund. And you're paying like over 4.5% per year. This lady is a fucking fraud. Absolutely. Absolute fucking fraud is what she is. A fraud who doesn't even have competent analysts, who's selling a bunch of horse shit, a bunch of snake oil. And once again, folks, it's the media. It's the media who's empowering this lady. They're a partner with her. They're a financial partner with her. And in this case, Graham Stephan, he's part of the media. Graham Stephan is involved in ad-based content. He is media. And you all know he's a scam artist. He is empowering this fraudster. Folks, don't ever let anybody get away. When they empower somebody who's a fraud, a con artist, a scammer, you let them know that. Say, hey, you promoted this person. You endorsed this person. You had this person on your channel. You're part of the problem. You're also a scammer. You're a facilitator of the scammer. You're an accomplice. You understand? Graham Stephan is giving her publicity. Don't forget it, folks. All these people. People don't think this way. This is why their fucking life sucks. They don't understand how to see this stuff.
Horizon. We hope you do too. And so I do think about our clients. I think that our distributors, our partners, are the important conduits for that message, but we need to be out there more as
I'm gonna close this out.
well. And it's very important for us to say, look, if we've just doubled in a short period of time, you need to take profits. You need to rebalance, right? Because that will give you the psychological wherewithal that when we drop 50%, you will add us at.
You hear that, folks? You hear that? Now she's telling everybody, well, if we soar, sell our fund. Get out. Because, I mean, she's saying she's excusing herself from her fucking failure. Can you believe this? She's basically saying, well, if our fund soars, for Cathie, it's not going to happen again. This is not going to happen again. Okay? Unless we have another pandemic. It's not going to happen again. She's saying basically, well, if we soar, you get out. Right? Because it's not going to last. How about this, Cathie? If you think it's not sustainable, Why don't you take action? You're the fund manager, right? You're charging a fee for your active management. If you don't think it's sustainable, why don't you take action? Why are you asking your customers, your shareholders, to serve as fund managers? That's what she's doing. Think about it, folks. She's saying, oh, the fund went up here, you should have sold. You should have sold some. But wait a second, Cathie, they're paying you to manage the fund. You're asking them to be a fund manager? To sell? You're in the best position to know what you have and what you're doing. Why don't you make sure that your fund doesn't collapse? You understand? This lady is the ultimate fucking con artist. You see how she's got an excuse for everything. She spins everything. I mean, she's probably a bigger con artist than some of the biggest con artists in the financial industry that I've come across. The way that she spins everything. This is totally fucking unbelievable to me. Anyway, there you have it, folks. Just one example. It's the same story, I'm sure. Every video with her, everything can be picked apart easily because you're dealing with the person. This is the type of character that she has, what she's trying to do. She's a con artist. She doesn't know what she's talking about. She's talking about deflation. Been talking about it for years. Disruptive innovation. The only thing that's disruptive, I would say, is the majority of her customers' net worth. What she has disrupted. Okay? She's a massive destructor of wealth. Destroyed billions upon billions of dollars. She's a fraud. She's a failure. She's a con artist. It's that simple. That's all I've got.